is that Matt Booth? And we all sit down and we're smoking, and everyone's expecting, like usual, Matt. I don't think people know that he's got a very turned off side where he's not constantly making butthole jokes. And so you could tell that Matt was waffling between like wanting to talk about, you know, masturbation and nothing. And it was a hard balance for him to find.
That is a tough balance. Those subjects really polarizing.
Well, on that note, we've been live for about 2 minutes, so everybody's listening to most of that Matt Booth story. Welcome to the I Tap That Cigar Show. I'm your host, Kevin from Cigar Prop. I'm coming to you live from the sunny Gulf Coast of Florida. Joining me, as always, Kerr Viajante for Stogie Road Cigars from South Carolina. We got Brandon from Apostate Cigars out there. Where are you at tonight? Are you out home in Utah?
I'm home, man. I'm home. I'm leaving this weekend, but right now I'm home. Yeah.
All right, and then Cigar Show Tim, Tobacco Talk Media, coming all the way from out west in California,
sunny Southern California, the other beachside area,
sunny Southern California. Before we kick off the show, I don't know if people follow me on Instagram. Have you seen all like the video tributes I've been doing to manufacturers or songs? So Brandon, I didn't post it because we got one for you. So
let's go. All right.
So,
I'm all pins and needles over here. Let's go.
Listen up.
Ready, set, go.
Well, Kendrick and Brandon wore ties and smiles, knocking doors down Mormon miles. Raised on rules, no coffee or sin, but deep inside they loved contraband and the scent of a Maduro bin. Said no more of this, threw their badges in the wilderness, took their scriptures and rolled them tight. Not into cigars, but they sure lit their own light. Now they're blowing halos out in the west, with feathered serpents puffing on their chest, saving souls one draw with cedar spice and a touch of lime. Apostate pride, no necktie shame. They lit the leaf and ditched the name. Old Joseph Smith saw angels fly, but he never saw a rapper this green and high. The feathered serpent's a jungle flame, with notes of rebel leaf and ditch the name. Temples say no smoke inside, but apostates got truth that burns with pride. No golden plates, no secret codes, just perfect draws and righteous loads. Now they're blowing halos out in the west, with feathered serpents puffing on their chest, saving souls one draw at a time, with cedar spice and a touch of lime. Apostate pride, no necktie shame. They lit the leaf and ditched the name. So raise a stick to the ex-believers, the prophet dodgers and ring gauge dreamers, from Zion's land to Hiroshima shore. They built a brand we're grateful for. Apostate cigars, divinely bold, the only church with a humidor of gold. So raise a stick to the ex-believers, the prophet dodgers and ring gauge dreamers, from Zion's land to Hiroshima shore. They built
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Apostate Cigars, divinely bold. So,
Billy Church with a golden humidor. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to put in.
You know I'm gonna need that file. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'd like to put in a request to have my song redone because that was really cool. And
that was fucking rock and roll, dude.
The one that you did for me. I mean, I appreciate the effort, and I do love the fact that you thought of me that much to put a song together. But whatever genre you picked was not like that.
It's tough sometimes. This was the hardest one I've done to date. Now, God, I bet I had 24 edits on different genres, trying to figure it out. And then this one came like, all right, I think that's it.
Yeah, you nailed it.
He mailed mine in, Tim.
Yeah. I mailed yours in.
You can get AI like, listen, his name's Kerr, he's got cigars, whatever.
He likes barber poles. Go.
We're at the Great Smoke, and Nick Melillo from Foundation was there, and he had his phone out, and he was like playing it for people. Hey, did you hear the song Kevin did? You know, he kept playing it for
That's 100% what I'm gonna do, bro. I'm gonna be rolling down the highway with the windows down, and that turned all the way up, like 100%. That was a banger, dude.
Yeah, that was great. That was a really good song. Good lyrics, good beat, good everything.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a ChatGPT, did the lyrics for me. I mean, you still have to put in a lot of information, but and then there's another AI program I use. Speaking of ChatGPT, I had to yell at Jessica the other day, and not yell at her, but I'm using ChatGPT, and then so my ChatGPT, his name is Ash. That's the name he gave himself.
Of course. Yeah.
Why not?
So so he brought something up and about Rocky Patel, and I'm like, man, I've never talked about Rocky Patel. And I asked Jessica, I go, that's weird. Ash, I refer to him now as Ash, said something about Rocky Patel. I was like, oh, hey, you logged in on my computer. And then I had to ask him a question. I'm like, whoa, you got to tell him this is Jessica. So now, Jessica,
don't fuck with the algorithm. Yeah.
You've been infiltrated.
Well, it is, because I said he knows exactly how I write. He knows like everything about me. So now Ash has separated Jessica and I. So now,
how smart is Ash? Was he able to, when she starts typing, going, "This is not Jessica. Oh, this is not Kevin.
This is not Kevin.
Yeah.
Who is this?
Yeah. Exactly.
Serpent.
Yep. That's what I've got too. The feathered serpent. And then
I have one down in there, but that's not what I'm smoking.
What are you smoking, Tim?
I'm smoking the new Artisanal del Tobacco Viva La Vida, Connecticut.
Good one.
Checking it out for the first time.
Nice.
Right on, Brandon. We got you gave us a couple of the feathered serpents at the show, and you got a new size of that, right? And
Corona, baby, yeah.
Is that the one you've got, Kerr?
That's what I'm smoking.
Yeah.
Great format for that.
4.5 by 44. Honestly, draws a little tight on mine, but it's not hurting it. It's good. It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had that one yet.
Tight draw, but it's really, like you said, it's got a lot of flavor to it. It's burning well. Maybe a little bit of a tight draw, but nothing that's noticeably annoying.
And they were rolled just a couple weeks before the show, so they're finally getting to a point where the flavors are starting to settle in a little bit. But yeah, I like this size. It's not a huge change in ring gauge from the regular production 46 ring gauge to this being a 44, but even that small little jump, it's tasting different. I'm tasting a lot more complexity, and everything's just kind of turned up a little bit. It's really good.
Yeah, it's and a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, the cigar is different. I mean, if you make it smaller, you have to leave something out.
Ratios are different.
Ratios are different. So you're definitely going to get a different cigar. And like I said, and this one not drastically different, but even the length of the cigar, it's if you got a shorter cigar, it's generally going to burn a little cooler. I
don't recall the originals, the Vitol that I had before being as spicy as this one. This one seems to.
No, this has more spice. Yeah, it really does. Kendrick described it well. He's been trying to explain it to people. Why did we make them smaller? He's saying if you take the regular size Vitola out of our line, that's your Americano, and this is your espresso, right? It's just condensed. It doesn't have a lot of other stuff to it. It's all tightly packed. And I think it's definitely bolder for sure. And that's true across the board for all 8 of them. It's a little bit bolder smoke, but that's not a bad thing. It doesn't take away from it.
You know, Kevin, you'll like this too because it's spicy, but it still has that nuttiness to it, and I'm getting more of the Candela flavor from this.
I'm getting more creaminess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know a smaller ring gauge. You know, you probably more wrapper, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody knows the gig, but I am getting more of that Candela. But I do like your Candela a lot. I think it's the best.
Thank
Candela.
you.
Oh yeah. And it doesn't have that bittery, you know, really kind of nasty notes. You could definitely get that greeny, like grassy flavor off of it. You know,
not overpowering.
No, and then that with the pepper is a great blend, a great combination.
Yeah, this it's hitting real nice. Yeah, Kevin, I gave you some, right?
Yeah. I got a few, so definitely gonna smoke them. And then we've had a lot of good cigars from the show. We've had a few bad cigars from the show. But I'll tell you the one that I crave every day, that I miss is those little cigarillos you did.
Oh my gosh!
I brought those home. You know, Jessica, she probably like hers. You know, she's got 10 of them. She probably smokes 10 a day, and so I think I got a couple, and then she smoked the rest. And now, you know, we were going somewhere the other night up to the store 15 minutes away, and I was like, that's what I want. You know, it's just there's been so many times. There have been so many times, and I don't smoke those at all. She gives me one of hers every now and then. They don't burn right, you know, and but for her, you know, in between her social media things, you know, she needs those 15 minutes.
Right.
And I don't ever smoke them. And then, but yours was
packed with flavor.
It was awesome.
It's
flavor. It didn't light your fingers on fire like those little ones do. They get so hot, and then every single day, like I said, I've had like this 10 or 15 minute, and it's just like that's what I needed. I needed that.
That's how you fill the gaps. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever been hyped about a cigarillo. I've never been sitting around like, you know what I could go for is a fucking cigarillo. It's usually just something I'm smoking because it's there.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't take a lot of time. This is a cigarillo that I will be seeking out for sure. We're not sure when they're going to hit retailers. We've got to dial in the packaging, but it will be this year. Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, you know, those were great. Kevin, I just want to say one thing because I was smoking when we were going around and doing a video. You know how when you smoke sides they get really harsh kind of midway through.
Oh yeah.
This is the first and only time I ever nubbed.
Oh yeah. I
was like,
little roach clip. Yeah, dude.
I smoked mine all the way down.
100%. Flavor was ridiculous. It was very. I mean, the flavors usually they're one dimensional, one note. You know, those cigars, and it's a nice little fix. But this really had some good mix of flavors. But I expected all the way down.
And I expected it to be a little more, like you said, Kerr, a little more one note, almost like a Fuma. And I was, pleasantly surprised. I was just like, wait, what in the world? How is there so much complexity in this thing?
Yeah.
I was like, how did they do this? How the hell did they do this?
I'll tell you, it's all the leftover tobacco from production in the factory, which includes a lot of obviously the Apostate stuff, but it's also leftover from like La Galera production, San Parai production. But it's really good tobacco, and they're not going to just throw it away, right? And so they chop it up and they mix it all together in this huge box. Like you walk down the hallway where the machine rolled stuff is. And they've got box after box after box of just chopped up filler ready to go. And they throw them in the machine rolled with this one's a Brazilian Arapiraca wrapper.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that Brazilian wrapper on top of just a mix of all of Hochi's best fillers and binders. Of course it's going to be flavorful, and it's definitely not going to be one dimensional.
That's an interesting wrapper
we're
to
kind
use
of finding if you smoke 10 of them, you're going to get a little variation.
Oh yeah,
between 4 or 5 of them, they're not all going to hit the same because you know which box they pulled the scraps out of, right? But that's what the wrapper's for. It gives you that binding, unifying experience. But yeah, man, those things are blowing me away. I can't believe how good a little.
Yeah,
I think the wrapper is the interesting part about that, because usually you'll see, these are Connecticut's,
very atypical,
Toro or Habano, and you're pulling out an Atapodaca, and you're taking all that good tobacco and wrapping it. Good golly, Miss Molly.
Insane.
Yeah,
sauce, baby.
I love it. We were looking to have some made cigarillos for Trash Panda, because Jessica smokes so many, and I'm like, all right, so I'll start looking around and seeing who can make them for us. And then when I smoked yours, it was just like the Candela. People are always saying, "Hey, you love Candela. When are you going to make one?" And I go, "I'm not. Apostate already made the best one." Like, what why? Yeah. I mean, I'm not here to I'm not just going to do something just to make money. Everything I do is kind of unique. At time, kind of tells a story. So I'm like, the best Candela is already on the market. Just go buy that one. You don't have to give me your money. And then, on those little ones, I'm like, okay, so now I got to set up an account with you guys, because I got to buy. Because I was gonna put them in like a 25, and then put them like in a little 3D printed recycling bin. And that was like going to be the thing that recycled cigar. So yes, now I don't have to look at. Yeah,
Kevin needs to know what the pricing is, so he can reach his break even on Jessica smoking them, and then
it's
you set up an account, and we'll get you wholesale, and you'll be good to go. You don't even have to sell.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to sell at least half. Like I said, like Kerr said,
at least break 2/3.
Break even on them. So
Jessica be like, listen, we can accept the 25% loss, Kevin.
It's
called the Jest tax. It's the Jest tax.
The Jest tax. But yeah, so it's but yeah, like I said, I'm not about, like I said, just making a cigar just to make it, just to steal a little market share or whatever. If someone's already doing something, okay, let them do it.
And the Candela market share is exactly what you're going to steal a big piece of that pie, Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same for us. I mean, that's why Apostate exists, right? I'm not out to make, the next Davidoff. We're not trying to chase what Fuente's doing or Tatuai. There's so many good manufacturers. We're not trying to chase that. What we're trying to chase is a unique experience that we can put our own stamp on that facilitates something bigger. And we've got 8 blends that I think do that. And now a Cigarillo apparently. So.
Well, and you're clearly doing things well because of the big press release that came out. And I saw you, I think, an hour after it dropped at the show, and everybody was coming up to you like, you're clearly doing stuff well.
Yeah, Tim, a good thing you brought that up, because I had a couple people, and I was waiting on the show to ask Brandon. I was confused about the press release, or I'm confused about people saying that you're now part of Black Label and James is making your cigars.
No. Not at all.
Okay. So I took it as you're part of their distribution plan, but other people
which
are
is
reading
what the press release said.
That's what I thought. That then people are asking me, and I'm like, did I miss something? Like, did something else get
slower? They need to read.
No, reading is good. Reading is our friend. If you
bring back LeVar Burton and have him read it to them.
Hooked on phonics or something, because it's right in there. This is a distribution deal. That is, if you boil it down to its essence, Apostate is still owned by Kendrick and myself. We are still doing production with Hochi down at Tabacalera Palma. We are still fully in charge of everything creatively. This is still our company. Black Label is still Black Label, Blackworks, Emilio, all of that is still, they're doing their thing in Nicaragua. The benefit for both sides is diversity, right? So for us, we now have access to not only LJ Zuka's distribution, but LJ Zuka's fucking stellar sales force. So we've got, instead of me packing a bag and schlepping myself all over the country, knocking on retailer doors all by my onesie, we've got a whole sales force ready to preach the apostate gospel for us. And they already know how to speak to it because they've been doing it with a rock star brand like Black Label, who, let's face it, is kind of the same vibe, right? And that's why this makes sense too. These two brands coming together to collaborate that way makes sense on a vibe level. They're Black Sheep, we're apostates, we're none of us are in the middle of the congregation where we belong, right?
Yeah, you're both sort of counterculture in your own unique vibe.
Yeah, and so that part made sense. It gives them, access to Dominican production. It gives us access to Nicaraguan production, so we can both fuck around. It's just one of those things that all of the things that needed to make sense made sense, and then some. So not a lot of cons involved.
No.
But yeah, no, James is not making our cigars. If we collaborate, out of his factory, then yes, he will be producing a cigar for us, but it will be a Black Label and Apostate thing together.
Yeah,
so
that would be it'd be awesome to see what you guys can to
can't wait.
To
Kevin, it must have been that confusing, article. The Apostate Cigars joins Oveja Negra brand for sales, marketing, and distribution. And then when people go, clear. Are they making their maybe it's maybe Morgan Freeman needs an Apostate Cigars joins Oveja Negra.
I don't know how you could be more clear.
I thought. I know. I'm like, did I read something wrong, or did they put out something else? I'm like, as far as I know, it's just the distribution is what the press release said. So
sales, marketing, some keywords there, folks.
Sales, marketing, and distribution. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So, so everybody's back from PCA. I actually complete my PCA journey tomorrow. I fly out at 2:30 in the morning to go pick up my truck that broke down in Florida.
Right.
So tomorrow I'll finally complete my my PCA.
3 weeks later.
3 weeks
later. Yeah, I had to reach out to my accountant yesterday or a couple days ago, and I'm like, hey, my truck broke down on the way to a business trip. Is all of this deductible? And he's like, you're damn right it is.
You're goddamn right it is.
Yeah, rental car, flights, everything involved in this whole debacle is
our Pizza Hut lunch.
Pizza Hut lunch. Karen and I found a Pizza Hut buffet.
That was cool.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just as worse as you remember.
God, I wouldn't want it to be otherwise. Yeah,
it was either that or go to the food trucks, and we were in what was the name of that town again? Defuniak Springs, Florida. And I thought, I'm not going to be eating out of a food truck in Defuniak Springs. I will risk it.
Yeah. So Tim and Brent,
Defuniakians, but
So I'm at the shop on Friday talking to a customer. He just pulled up, good customer. I'm just putting some air in his Hummer for him, and he's talking about his truck is getting some work done. I'm like, yeah, my truck is broke too in the Panhandle, And he's like, where? And I go, it's a little town that nobody's ever heard of. And he's like, where's it at? And I go, Defuniak. He goes, Defuniak Springs. He goes, I got a house there. I'm heading there in like 2 weeks. And I go, you're the only fucker on this planet that knows where it's at. And he goes. And he's like, you need a ride? Like, so I'm going up there for the summer in like 2 weeks. You can hitch a ride with me. I'm like, I got a flight on Tuesday. But I'm like, what are the odds?
That is
I need
crazy.
A guy that's got
crazy.
You couldn't even get an Uber in Defuniak Springs. But now you find someone at your shop who has a house in Defuniak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're famous
Where
for
was
their diving.
Exactly.
Famous for their springs that people dive in, and he says on the one spring there's a big sign that says, "Are you going to be the diver that gets killed today?" Because a lot of divers die up. Yeah, one of those. I'm like, I don't think I'd go into a place like that, but
Did you hear a guy say, "I have a summer home in Defuniak Springs," Kevin?
Yeah.
That's special.
Yeah. So Tim and Brandon, you both like me have done Vegas and New Orleans now. Brandon, how many times were you in Vegas? How many times did you guys show Vegas?
So I've been going to PCA since it was still IPCPR on the retail side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been going to Vegas for a minute. I think 2017 was my first trade show in Vegas. And then I'm pretty sure everyone I've gone to until now has been in Vegas. So as a manufacturer, we did 3 in Vegas, and this was our 4th trade show, first time in New Orleans.
Now, Tim, I know you've done PCA and TPE. How many PCAs have you done in Vegas?
I did 3 of them. I started in 22. I think that was the year after they changed the name, I think. Because I think during COVID, and then 21, I think was the first year that they were PCA. Yeah, I think is when it changed. But yeah, so I've been to Vegas 3 times, and then for TPE, I've been to 3 of them as well. I didn't do TPE last year, but I did it this year.
So, Brandon, we'll start with you. Which just in general, which was your better time, Vegas or New Orleans?
Hands down, New Orleans. It's not even close. Yeah, hands down, New Orleans. I just like I don't know, man. I like the vibe better. I like that it's spread out I like that you got to pick what you're going to do and be intentional about it. There is a little appeal in Vegas where you can just wander and you're going to find a group of cigar guys, right? And it's all going to be relatively close to your bed upstairs. That's cool. But on top of that, you got the fucking slot machines going. You got everybody walking past giving you side eye because fuck you for smoking a cigar in a casino. Good luck getting a drink, and good luck paying for it. You know what I mean? So Vegas is Vegas, right? And it's always going to be fun. I'm never going to have a bad time in Vegas. But New Orleans is a city with soul. Quite literally. I mean, we went on a ghost tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't go on any ghost tours in Vegas. The town is cooler. There's more to it. There's more history. Everyone seemed a little happier. Like it didn't have that Vegas depression vibe. And I couldn't find a bad meal there if I tried. The food in New Orleans is bonkers. Every meal
and way
is
cheaper.
Fantastic.
And
way cheaper.
Like way cheaper. Like I said, we Jessica and I went to Wahlburgers for lunch out in Vegas. I'm like, oh, there's a Wahlburgers. Let's go. Right. It's $100. Couple burgers, couple fries, couple sodas. It's $100. I go, what is this? Kerr and I, we had these big meals. We went to the fried chicken place. We had all these sides. We had pie. We had like this massive feast, and it was like $60 or something. And it's just like,
top.
Yeah, dude, it was like night 2. It was right before we were going to go on our little walking ghost tour in the French Quarter, and we were just trying to lock down some food real quick before we started walking. And we found this, like, it had to be locals only. It was like you walk into this bar / market, and there's a food counter at the back, and there's no tourists in there. It's like a dude holding his chihuahua waiting for a sandwich, right? I swear to you, we got a catfish sandwich po' boy that was the size of a baby. I mean, it weighed 9 pounds, 6 ounces. It was fucking phenomenal. Best catfish I've had in my life. And it was like $7. You know what I mean? It was like $7 for a sandwich. It was awesome. You can't beat that. So I don't know, man. New Orleans, I'm excited to go back next year. I want to see how it changes now that it's been there this year. And that there's hype around it. But talking to other manufacturers and seeing other manufacturers post online, the general consensus is that New Orleans fucking rocked and everybody had a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're gonna do New Orleans again next year. We're gonna skip Vegas in 27. We're gonna go down to the Dominican for the was it Puro Sabor or whatever it is, and because I don't want to go back.
Pro Cigar, or
Pro Cigar. I don't want to go back to Vegas. I don't want to go back. It's just
I'm over it.
See, and I'm torn. Exactly. I'm torn on it because
Terry, give me 1 second, Tip. Do you know if Viajante was at the show?
Ooh.
I don't remember seeing Viajante.
I didn't see Viajante.
No, I don't think they were. I didn't see
them, same here. All right, so go ahead, Tip.
Yeah, so I'm torn because I've got to take 5 hours worth of flights to get to New Orleans from Southern California, and it's like a 3.5 hour drive to Vegas for me. But I mean, Brandon, I'll completely agree with you. The food was way cheaper. I had a shrimp po' boy one of the nights that was just out of this world, and they had it was a light beer and a shot of whatever for $7 for both of them combined. And I mean, it was a shot of JMO and a High Life or whatever it was for $7. And then, but even we went to Manning's where a bunch of people went also. And I mean, we all know you go and you sit and you get one drink in Vegas, say you're, I'm an old fashioned guy. You have one old fashioned, in Vegas, and you're at like $35-$40 on the
$27 minimum. Yeah. Dude. Yeah.
And
for
so
the house bourbon.
And I bought myself and 2 other buddies that I was hanging out with a whole round of drinks, and for all 3 of us with tip it was only $55.
Yeah, bro.
And I mean it from the financial standpoint it's way better. I mean I hope we brought a lot of tax revenue to New Orleans and everything, but I like the city vibe. I mean I liked all of that. I stayed in Airbnb with the brand, with the manufacturer that sponsored all of my content this year, so I had a little bit unique, different experience than some others. But I mean, I like the convention center. I like how open it was. I like the options that were there. I mean, walking 20 minutes from one end to the other to go and get food. That food honestly was more expensive and decent quality compared to just going out to a restaurant, which was about the same price and better quality. But I mean, the couple things I like about Vegas is, that at the end of the show you go to the Circle Bar, or if it's TPE, you go to Cass Bar, where the watering holes are. Here it wasn't quite that way, and it felt a little bit different. It didn't feel disconnected at all, because no matter where you went, there were people all around. It didn't matter if you went to, you know, Manning's or the French Quarter or wherever you went, there were people everywhere, and you just hung out. I did like that sort of more fluid kind of socialization, as opposed to it feeling very static and waiting 45 minutes to hope that you can get a drink order in, then wait another half an hour to hopefully get it, and then pay an arm and a leg for it, compared to Vegas. So I liked New Orleans compared to Vegas more. I liked just the whole vibe. I liked the city, all of that. I mean, yeah, it's got its dirty parts, and everybody's like, oh, it's dirty and nasty, but I mean, let's be real. We're comparing it to Vegas.
So
and
what? Yeah.
When you're not stuck in a casino with a drunk girl who hopes that you're going to spend the night with her and, you know, probably rob you, and you don't have to worry about that, but you're out and hanging out and enjoying good food and cigars. And I mean, the local hotels that were there, you know, one of them had this patio balcony area where I hung out with a bunch of different people one night, some of the people and the guys from Casa Carrillo, and like that kind of organic stuff doesn't exist in Vegas. You know, you're going to one of two different places in Vegas, and if not, then you're just not going out. But there were a lot more options in New Orleans.
Yeah, we were doing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I say, you know, walking down the street in New Orleans, Kerr and I walked everywhere. Not once did people hit us up for, hey, do you want a picture for $10? Hey, do you want to buy this? You want to buy this?
Yep.
Kerr and I,
and that's I mean, I've never gone. This is my first PCA, and I've been to New Orleans before, and I've been to Vegas a couple of times, and I can't, you know, experience wise, you know, speak to one being better over the other, but I can tell you, just being in Vegas, I'm not a Vegas guy. I'm just not. I don't gamble.
I only go for the trade shows. I don't vacation
and even,
there. I don't go
even going there. I mean, I know there's some good food, but like you said, I mean, you get a food, or you get a meal and a drink, and it's like it's $120. I thoroughly enjoyed New Orleans this time around. I was down there prior and was not a real big fan. Kevin and I, like you said, we were able to walk everywhere, no one harassing you. And then we just, like, the first night there, we just walking around. We're like, hey, let's try a seafood place. We went in, great food. It didn't break the bank. You know, probably the meal for the both of us would have been a meal and drinks for just one of us in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
And I like the way that the trade show inside was laid out. Yeah, I've been to, you know, out to Vegas for other trade shows and such, but the way it was laid out was great. The convenience of everything. And I think that there is something to maybe, you know, everybody in who's you know, their brands, and maybe Brandon, you can kind of, you know, build on this. Is you're standing there all day, you're standing talking to everybody all day long, and when you're done in Vegas, like you said, everyone goes to the same bars. You're going to go to a bar and you're going to continue talking. Sometimes it's nice to be able to say, I'm just going to walk down this street, and find some little corner bar and get myself a freaking po' boy and a beer, and just not be bothered with anybody, because I need some time to decompress.
Oh yeah,
100%. Yeah, it's like in Vegas, it follows the recipe, right? You do trade show, dinner, and then whichever bar, right? Whether it's at the Sahara or at, you know, the Venetian, whatever. You're going to go to one of two places probably. You're going to see the same people. You're going to have the same conversation. And honestly, I like networking with the retailers at the bars in Vegas after the show. It's a really good chance to continue a conversation you couldn't before, or start a conversation that you didn't have a chance to. I love that. That's still possible in New Orleans, but it's better somehow. I don't know, because you had like 3-4 hangouts in New Orleans. They were a little spread out, and you never knew who you were going to see at each one. It was a second or third night. I was hanging at Cuban Creations, chilling with our boy Hochi Blanco, sitting there having drinks with us, he and his wife and his team. And then up walks Nick Melillo. Now, if that scenario played out in Vegas, it's going to be this weird rock star. Oh, there's a crowd around him. Everybody wants to, you know, rush in and say hi to Nick Melillo. That didn't happen in New Orleans. Yes, everybody said hi, but it didn't feel like a fanboy situation. It felt like, hey, there's my friend Nick. I'm going to go say, hey, we're all going to sit and smoke and drink and chill. It's just much more laid back. There's less pressure. And I think it made us all a little more accessible.
It seems like it'd be more intimate when you do have those one-on-ones, Brandon. More intimate than it just being more of everyone out there. having a conversation with someone and someone comes in and interrupts, or it's this, that, the other thing. New Orleans seemed, from again my experience just being in Vegas, more intimate. It's not like trying to have a one-on-one conversation and connect with 50,000 people around you.
Yeah, you didn't have to yell over music. You didn't have to like try and work too hard to have a conversation. I mean, I was at the CLE Grand Habano League of Fat Bastards thing one of the nights, and it didn't feel like when Christian did his birthday party a couple years ago at PCA, where it just felt like almost over-structured and like, can I go over there? I know I can go to the bar. I know I can do this, but like, I'm just going to stay in my little area. What are the rules? It was just free flow, and everybody just sort of mixed and mingled and went around. It was a whole lot more like laid back, less structured, and just more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing we've brought up several times, the thing about Vegas is, you go to a bar, you go to this bar, people think, Vegas, you go to drink. You can't drink in Vegas. It's impossible to get a beverage. If you go to one of these bars, you can't. I was at the first TPE or the PCA that I went to. We went to the Circle Bar, a ton of people around. I was there for probably 4 hours. You couldn't nobody could get a drink. It was impossible. Like you cannot drink in Vegas if you try, unless you're gambling and sitting at a slot machine or at a table. But if you can't, it's impossible to drink.
Yeah, or you pay the $500 to get a table to have a server come up to you.
Right. If you could get a private table with a server, you got to spend a minimum, right? But that's the other part of it, Kevin, that you just mentioned is I thought before New Orleans that I was going to miss having the opportunity to go sit down and play blackjack if I wanted. I didn't even think about gambling in New Orleans. There's so much more shit to do. I didn't go sit down and gamble and blow a wad so I could get free drinks. I fucking wandered around one of the oldest, coolest cities in the country and had experiences and made new friends. And we were the last night there, I was walking around the French Quarter at 2 a.m. retracing the steps of our ghost tour just by ourselves, and telling the stories to the people who were with us and getting drinks at the haunted bar. And you don't do that in Vegas. You can't.
No.
And it just felt like real life. It didn't feel staged. It didn't feel rehearsed or pressured. It just felt like, hey, let's go fucking have some fun. We're in New Orleans.
Yeah, not every place had like an entry fee of like, oh yeah, there's a cover charge of $50 to go into the 8 lounge. Oh, you got to, $50 to get in, and then it's $100 minimum.
Right. Oh, exactly. And and then Jessica and I, last year at PCA, we didn't do anything because it was like you had all these events. It was like someone's having an anniversary party, someone's having a birthday, and it's here to here, and it's across town. It's like, God, do I want to take the train? Do we want to take the car? Get an Uber? It's just a pain in the ass. And like I said, Kerr and I we took the car out the last night for the CLE or the Camacho party. And it wasn't, it would have only been about a 12 to 15 minute walk, but we had walked enough. So we drove to that one, but everything we did was walking distance from the hotel.
And that whole setup was great.
2 different mornings I walked to the trade show. I walked back from that Camacho party to my place. I walked and hung out with people, and it was probably a 1.5 mile walk at, 1:32 in the morning, but it felt comfortable. That's another big thing too. The weather there was absolutely perfect. It wasn't humid. It wasn't too cold. It got cool at night with the breeze, but compared to Vegas, when you're in a jacket and you've got wind chill that's dropping to another 20 degrees when it was there earlier in the year, or when it was there in July, and you walk out there and you want to go right back in because your skin melts off your body, it was perfect weather.
Yeah, it was great weather. Perfect. And the location for that Camacho party was another one that was just very historic, very beautiful. Nothing glitzy, glammy that you get. Great food, but man, that setup was just fantastic.
Have you guys ever played? Have you ever played Red Dead Redemption 2? Are you guys gamers at all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not. I know of it though. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a video game, Red Dead Redemption 2. It's set in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and they've taken a section of their open world map and basically modeled it after New Orleans. And in the city of Saint Denis is what it's called. There's a sheriff's office. There's a jailhouse. And it's got big, tall doors with glass windows, and it's long and it's sprawling backwards. I'm pretty sure that the hotel where the Oveja Negra crew stayed, they rented out the hotel. It was only 9 rooms. Was that jail? So you walk up. They give us the address for their party, their little Black Label party, And we roll up, and on the facade is still the sign that says jailhouse or sheriff's office, right?
Oh man!
And you walk
That's
in,
cool.
and it's all these antiques from when it was in operation.
That's cool.
And you go up this cool little narrow staircase out onto the roof, and we're having a party out there. But it looked like they lifted this jail straight out of 1905 and just preserved it the way they could. And we had a party there on the roof, and it was amazing. And there's no way you're recreating that vibe for me in Vegas. I don't want to.
No way.
I don't want to sit here and shit on Vegas. I do enjoy going to Vegas for the trade show. I like it.
They're just two very different places.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I like it. New Orleans, I am in love with New Orleans. Any excuse to go back, and I'm there.
Yeah, I remember we passed by like an old church at one point that had been there for hundreds of years, and and the first time I'm like, oh man, I'm like Napoleon could have went to that church.
The history,
like when he was here, it's just
dude.
you think about little things like that, it's
and it's voodoo and vampires and ghosts and demons and pirates and all that shit, dude. And Vegas, cool, yeah, you got the mafia or whatever.
Yeah,
okay, great. It's not really rich in culture the way New Orleans is. It can't be avoided in New Orleans.
And you see some crazy stuff in Vegas, but you're not going to see. Kevin and I were standing, and we hear this music blaring, and a pickup truck turns a corner, back end's weighing down, and he's got a trailer, and it's one of those typical wooden bottom trailers, has a metal railing around it, like a fencing, and they got a speaker with lights flashing, a couple of tables bolted down. And on the back, they had a porta potty that was, ask Kevin, it was bungee cord to the back of this trailer. And that's how they're partying the whole night long. They're just driving around, getting dragged by this
absolutely.
Truck. Kevin and I are like,
I tell you, I've worked construction for years when I was younger, so I know all about the blue water splash.
Oh, yeah.
You don't ever want that blue water coming up and splashing you because it stains you, and then you don't know what kind of gonorrhea precipitates you're going to get from the blue water. So I can't imagine. If you don't
like the guy in the bathroom, you go down the cobblestone, at that point.
You hit a pothole and you get all the splash.
You're a Smurf for a month.
Now you are in Vegas because you have Blue Man Group and hanging out. But, it was the funniest thing. Kevin and I just kind of like watched it drove by. We looked at each other, we're like, oh
what can you say?
Yeah,
nothing. You say? Like, all right, man.
And I know people were concerned because they had the festival going on at the same time. But I tell you, it was never that crowded. We never ran into like those people or the parades or anything else. So it was super nice. And I'll tell you, Jessica and I, when we were in New Orleans once before, like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a dirty town and it was smelly. And this time around, man, it's an old town, but it was clean. It was like, for a town that's hundreds of years old, it was clean. It was it didn't smell, and it was and you felt safe. Like you said, you felt that you could walk down at 2 a.m. And it was
they
just
must have
no
pressure
issue.
washed that city during COVID because, like Kevin said, I was there maybe 10 years ago, and when I got on Bourbon Street, it just reeked of alcohol, vomit, and piss. It hit you to the point where I walked a half block down and had to leave because it was that pungent.
Oh wow!
Well, that was also in like August though, right, or end of July. So it's hot and it's humid. Luckily, like you said, temps were low, humidity was not high, so that was nice. I walked down the street or two where I could smell the sewer, but what? And so it
wasn't bad,
2 seconds and you're past it. Yeah,
it's better than walking around in LA.
Weed. After you smell sewer, you walk 2 steps and you're gonna smell weed, and everything was all right again.
Yeah, you're gonna smell weed, and then you're gonna smell amazing food.
Then you're gonna smell. There were so many times Kerr and I walking down, we're so hungry, like after the show or something. We're like, what is that? What is a delectable smell? And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what night it was. Like Saturday, we couldn't make up. We walked a mile. And we're like, you want to eat there? I don't know. You want to eat there? Like, well, let's keep walking.
I don't care, Kevin. I'm gonna eat my freaking arm in about a second because everything smells so damn good.
Yeah, dude. Pick a spot.
Yeah. So we finally just picked a spot, and then it was great. So Brandon, like as in the show, did you guys bring your booth out, or did you store that in Vegas and you had to have it shipped out? How did that work for you guys?
So we keep our setup pretty small. You noticed, right? We just have the backdrop, and then we have a table with a tablecloth on it, and we had a couple of stools. The table and the 4 stools that we had, we bought at Walmart the day of setup. We flew, the backdrop folds up into probably carry-on size. We could probably carry it onto the plane, but we checked our baggage. So we flew with everything, and it was not a big deal. We both had 2 suitcases and the backdrop, and we had everything we needed. So for us, it was super simple. Now I know we're an exception because we travel small on purpose, and maybe our 4th PCA would have been one where we up the stakes a little bit and we go a little more elaborate, but we didn't really see the need to do that because next year we're going to be sharing space in the Black Label booth. So why upgrade and use it one time and fly with it and store it when we're going to be scrapping it all? For the foreseeable future. So for us, the travel was not hard at all.
Oh, that'd be good. You're sharing a booth. Maybe I'll work up the nerve to talk with James. Like we had him on the show once, but I can't talk to him in person.
I wondered why we walked by the booth. I never said anything to you because I know how you get with him.
He makes me so nervous because he's so. I don't know. He's like, because he never smiles and he always has like that. He's got a great look. I love his look. It's awesome. But that look is also like, like what the fuck do you want? It's just like so I can't talk to him. So maybe
James is the introvert's introvert. He's a little reserved. And I see what you're saying. It can come across as standoffish, but it's not out of like he's a douchebag.
I know.
So he is actually very approachable. I would say next time you see him, definitely approach him and strike up a conversation. If you don't know where to go, start with his shoes. If you talk to him about his shoes, he'll talk to you about anything you want.
Can you see his shoes? He's always wearing them big pants. I don't know.
You can always see the shoes. He will make sure you can see the shoes.
You can always see the
walk
shoes.
Up and pull up his pant leg, Kev.
There you go.
So Brandon, so you guys were in the back.
Gary.
Gary chasing Kevin's. It is. Do you guys? How does like booth selection? Because you guys had a good spot. It wasn't a great spot. It was definitely not the worst spot out there. You were all the way in the back. Probably a good spot because you're back by the bathrooms, which was good. But how does that go? How do you how did you get that spot? Like,
so when we were looking at the show map and selecting our booth, I don't even remember when that was. It was August or September last year. It was right after the show. We locked in a space that was, we thought, going to have incredible foot traffic based on the booths that were around us and our proximity to an area labeled concessions. So there was you saw a concessions row back there. And then, like you said, bathrooms down one end, bathrooms down the other end. We're right in between them. We're going to have great foot traffic. It turned out that concessions area that we were right next to and that was used to calculate our decision to go there was not operating.
No, it was basically an employee break area.
It was an employee fucking break room, right? So they had a black curtain around the whole thing. So that kind of blew up in our faces, but we did still get good traffic. Mm-hmm. There were several times where we were completely inundated. Tim saw us super busy when he came by. I'm not disappointed with where we were, but it definitely could have been better. Like you said, we were in the back. The Rebellion booth in front of us had a backdrop so tall that you thought they were the last stop on the row. And there's nothing behind them. But we're back there behind them, just kind of hanging out, right? So there were some lulls, but not much. For the most part, we were still very engaged, very busy. I brought a lot of supplies, a lot of price sheets, and we went through almost all of it. In fact, the price sheets were gone. It was incredible. We still had awesome engagement.
That's what was going to be one of my next questions was the engagement, because someone had reached out to me, someone formerly in the industry. And he's like, well, you're going to see, this is going to be the worst trade show ever, the deepest discounts. Nobody's making any money. They're going to be giving things away. And there's such an inventory glut, So the one morning I went over to talk to Dave Lafferty over at Dunbarton after day one, it's day two. And I asked him, and he's like, this every year is getting better. This is, day one beat all of like last year,
the entire show.
Yeah, the entire show, and he was one of like 6 manufacturers that had said that as well. So
yeah, Steve told me that when I sat with him. He goes.
He said the same thing. We were hanging out with Hochi and over at the La Galera booth. You guys saw that La Galera basically tripled their footprint this year, right?
Yeah.
It still wasn't big enough. They were still spilling into the aisle. And he said on day 2, they did more business on day 2 than they did the entire trade show last year. I heard it over and over again. I don't know who your insider buddy is, and it doesn't matter because I think his opinion of how it was going to go was actually pretty popular. There were a lot of people who would have agreed with him.
Okay.
I think though that if you look at how the market has been since COVID, we haven't really plateaued yet. We might be starting to plateau as far as imports go, but I don't think we're plateauing as far as sales go. For Apostate, we're nowhere near plateauing because we're still the new kid on the block, man. I've got 75 active accounts right now. The sky's the limit for us. So it's just one of those, when you think you've reached everybody, there's so many more people still to talk to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked with Rick Rodriguez, Rick and Sarah, who are absolutely incredible people, as all of you know.
Love them.
But I talked with Rick, and I was like, after I was done with the interview, how's it going? And he goes, we're doing better and better every year. And I said, well, the product speaks for itself, but obviously your name in the industry. And he goes, no, that like this show is getting better each year, even with the big ones coming back, with Davidoff being back, Altadas, all those different big guys being back. It was one of those things where I wondered how it was going to play out. Because I mean, it wasn't super close to TPE like it was last year. And I think that's probably part of why people had that mindset of like, oh, it's in New Orleans, it's in a new place, it's going to be down, economy, and all those different things. But last year was kind of like a pacifier year almost, because it was like, well, we're so close, we're 6 weeks away from TPE, we have to have it happen. So we're not going to hope for the best, because we know if we were at TPE, we wrote orders, we did that, and we're not going to see those customers again because they're just barely getting their product onto the shelves, and we're not going to be making turns with them. And so, I think it's, in some ways it's an apples to apples because it's Vegas to New Orleans, but I think it's this year specifically is a little bit of an apples to oranges because they were so close last year, and next year's going to be back to how it was last year. I mean, they're 2 weeks apart next year. I mean, my opinion, I'm just going to call it now, TPE is going to be dead. It'll be the big brands that are there just so they can be there in Vegas on the west part of the country, and they're not going to expect much. It's going to be like it was where Eric Espinoza wasn't there, John Huber wasn't there. I mean, the faces of the brands aren't going to go there because they know it's
not sending their primary guys. Yeah,
no, and it's getting smaller and smaller in the cigar area every single year. I won't be at TPE next year. That's fine that they give me a free room for media and do all these things, and that's fantastic and great, good on them. But I'm not going to be at TPE next year unless something drastically changes, because why would I go and interview 10, 12, 15 different cigar brands and then, less than a month later, go and hit a whole bunch of other ones and basically say, hey, I saw you, 2.5 weeks ago. So Michael Herklotz, how are things different now? And he's going to look at me and say, you already asked the question.
Don't waste your time. Yeah, I think you're hitting on kind of how a lot of people feel. For me too, the thing that I noticed in my booth, and I don't know about other manufacturers, but the accounts that I'm used to seeing in Vegas are all very close, like you, Tim. They're West Coast guys, or Intermountain West. It's your Idaho, Montana, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington. Those guys show up to Vegas because it's easy. A lot of those guys did not show up to New Orleans. No. I saw some of them, but I did not see nearly as many as I thought I would. I think I saw 4 or 5 key accounts. So I'm wondering if those guys, maybe they're going to go to TPE and stay close to home and enjoy Vegas and talk to whoever they can and not go to New Orleans again. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I hope they come to New Orleans.
Yeah. I think they are, because I think everybody's talking about it, and I think people that didn't show up. I only know one guy at one shop out there that's kicking himself in the ass for not going, because we were talking about it, and he goes, man, like everything looked like a blast. I should have gone. And then I hear so many of the guys on the East Coast that were able to go that don't want to go to Vegas, and and a lot of shops, just because for the expense, for a mom and pop shop, it's a big expense, going out to Vegas and leaving your shop. And, now a lot of them can drive out to New Orleans and, go, a lot of them do the one day, they set their interviews and are able to drive back home and not miss too much work. So we heard a lot of that from manufacturers, that a lot more East Coast shops were at this show.
Oh yeah. And
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, from a media perspective, TPE, other than, Half Wheel being there, and a couple other people that I know that are usually at everything, it was all the new little like content creator, podcaster, all that kind of stuff that was there. And I mean, to give an example, I went back to the media room to download some interview content and do some different things during TPE. And one of those groups came in, and honestly, I don't even remember what their name was, but they came back in, and it was like they had finished going to Big Smoke and trick-or-treating, because they came in, they're like, let's count and see how many cigars we got. And I just thought, you guys are here for the wrong reason. Like, you're calling yourself media, and you've got a cell phone, or maybe you've got, an entry-level camera, nothing against you, whatever you're using, because phones actually work very well now, but you're here for the wrong reason. And I don't see those kind of media people going to PCA, but I see them gravitating more towards TPE, because if they're in with media, they get the free room, they get those perks. And it sounds really bad on my end and probably pretty judgmental. I don't want to be at an event where the majority of the media is new people. And yeah, people come up, oh, hey, I've seen your stuff. Can you give me input? I mean, Kevin, like you and I at the opening night party with a couple different groups of, content creators coming up to us. And I've got no problem helping and, giving input and guidance and, hey, here's what I've learned kind of stuff. But it's a very, very different vibe at TPE for media stuff. Obviously Cigar Craig was there and stuff like that too. People that have been around for quite a while. But it was all the new guys really at TPE, and it's just a different dynamic.
And I will say, I'm all for, as honestly, let's be honest, I'm all for as much cigar media as possible, right? Let's do it. You want to start a channel? Fucking let's go. But when it comes to PCA and who has access, and making sure that they're there for the right reasons, like you said, I feel like the vetting process should be, I don't know. So, you know what I mean? Something's missing, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what it should look like. But maybe you guys, being from that arena, could talk to PCA and say, here are the credentials that we have. Here are why manufacturers are excited to talk to us, because look at our engagement. How do you measure that? How do you put a metric to your engagement and do it in a way that allows PCA to feel good about giving you a media badge? And that way you go from, what did we have? 300 media badges on the list for PCA?
Something like that.
From 300, you narrow that down to like 100. Let's call it 100, right? With 300 media badges, I didn't see 300 people. 300 media presences did not come to my booth.
I didn't either. There was one group that just took up the media room when Kevin and I were in there, and just recorded their audio podcast the entire time they were there. And I'm like, that's not what this show is for. Yes, you're creating content, you're bringing awareness to the industry. All of that is fantastic. But even if you go and get a 3-minute interview clip with them and then record your podcast after the show and weave it in and do that kind of stuff. But there's some, it's difference of opinion, obviously, and vision and direction, what they want to do content wise, and nothing against them, because again, they're putting out content about the industry, which is good.
Right.
But there's got to be some sort of a filtering process of like, are you going to be actually interviewing brands, or are you just going to be taking up space, or, what is your intention behind this? And, maybe it goes down to, only 180, and they do a smaller trim for next year.
Well, that's the thing is, if you've got 300 media guys and they all come to my booth, sorry guys, some of you aren't getting an interview, and that's all there is to it. I want to make time for everybody. I really do. But the retailer is why I'm there, and the retailer gets my attention first, and you guys know that, and you guys work around that, right? And so if I've got a list now of 100 people, and 100 people come to the booth over 3 days, I could probably find 2 or 3 minutes for 100 people. But for 300, there's no fucking way.
You didn't have 300 come to your booth, though, right? You're saying that there were 300 badges, right?
Yeah, badges given out. Yeah.
but
I don't know where those people were.
I saw 25, 30 people.
Now I know there were four.
Where do you suspect those others were if there was? And it's the question. No, I'm saying. I mean, it's a serious question because there's a reason why I'm asking it, because everyone seems to have their thoughts on this. So if you feel that there were 300 badges given, then where do you feel the other folks were or what they were there?
Well, they were hanging out.
Hanging
out at booths.
So I can speak for 4 media people that were there that never did a single interview. They didn't have a camera. They were just hanging out, and they were going from booth to booth. And 2 of them interrupted put us back a few minutes twice, and it pissed me off. When you bring your little plaque. Oh, you won our Cigar of the Year award last year. Do that after the fact. Do it. No, I said you're taking up time. Like I said, now Kerr and I are sitting here fucking waiting, just like, hey, we've got other people to do. So you push up, luckily I booked accordingly because I kind of figured that would happen, but yeah. And then like you said, like you're there for, the customer. We had 2 interviews scheduled that we never got to. We went back, they were busy. We showed up, we kind of made the eye contact, and then we walked away. We came back, 10 minutes later, came back again. They were always busy. I'm like, I am not interrupting business.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked that is because I think that, like you said, when you talk about media and you talk about, how to quantify, or justifying these badges, if you will, I think having a website, blog, show, something that is
quantifiable,
not followers, because that would be like saying, okay, cigar brand owners, you have to make so many cigars or sell so many cigars in a year in order to be at PCA.
Right.
So,
right.
You can't do that with followers. I think you have to have some sort of formalized blog or show or something that is media related, that is a regular production or regular release.
And that's part of their requirements that you're supposed to submit. I mean, because last year when it went over, because I talked back and forth with Antoine, and he's been a huge asset to PCA since he came over there. But I was like, hey, I've got this, I've got that. And he goes, Tim, we know you're legitimate. You don't have to worry about anything. And it wasn't me saying like, am I good enough? Like, do I qualify? It was, how much of this information do you need? Do you need information, statistics and insights data from YouTube or from viewership or subscribers or traffic on website? What is it you're looking for? And as of right now, from what it sounds like to me, and maybe they're going to refine it over the next year, and I hope that they do, it sounds like all they were looking to see was that you weren't someone there with a cell phone going around talking for a minute and a half and fanboying out, getting a couple cigars and moving on. They wanted legitimate content to be produced of the show. And so there's some level of that in the application process, but I think there's still some refining to do.
In your application process, you have to put a manufacturer. You've got to give one manufacturer that's going to stand up for you in your application. So, so you have to put down, someone that, and I don't know if they reach out to that person, like, hey, do you know so-and-so? They're, they're saying they're media. Can you vouch for them? So,
that's so curious, because it seems like, even though they got that process, from all feedback, it seems like there's still some folks that are slipping through the cracks. And
I think so. And talking to one of the guys from Drew Estate, they were surprised at how much, consumers were at the show that got in that didn't have badges and were in there, and it's asking dumb questions, and it's just I'm like, that was that was definitely wrong. That
and that's frustrating in a couple of ways. Mostly for me, that's frustrating because the consumer is the end goal, right? The consumer is who I want to pick out an Apostate cigar with their buddies and sit down and smoke it for 2 hours and have a good time. That's who I have in mind when we're in the blending room, when we're marketing, when we're doing this at all. It's the consumer that matters. But this isn't for them. No. They have things. There are festivals all over this country all year long. Please go there. Please participate. Please support your favorite brands. Please talk to Saka and Malillo and Pete Johnson. Go say hi. That's why they're there. They want to see you with those. If you're at PCA and you somehow got in as a consumer, I don't know how you're reconciling that in your head. I don't know what's leading you to make that decision. Of course, as a consumer, I wanted to get a peek behind the curtain and be on the trade show floor. Absolutely. Would I fucking go to Vegas and do it? No way. No way. That's not for me. So it's frustrating in a couple of ways. We love the consumers. That's the lifeblood of what we're doing here. And that's who watches your content, you know? But time and place, you know?
Yeah, and at some point they're not going to, and I say this with my event management and coordination background and all that, at some point you just know that people are they're going to work the system, they're going to slip through the filters, and they're going to get in. It's a matter of mitigating as much of that as you can. But one of the things that I would love to see happen for next year's PCA when it comes to interviews for the media side of things is I would love it, instead of each manufacturer reaching out and sending you their Calendly or, you know, do this or do that, whatever platform they're using. I would love it if they built it. And I thought it used to be in the PCA app, but I guess it isn't, where you can schedule the time with the different booths as media for the interviews. And that way it's all in one platform. You've got everything. It's not, okay, I got this email from Apostate, I got this email from West Tampa, and now I got to put them all on the calendar, which isn't hard to do. But I'd love it if, for efficiency's sake, it could all be there, because then the booths, all they have to do is pull up and go, okay, in 15 minutes, I've got, you know, Tobacco Talk Media coming, and a half an hour after that, I've got Cigar Prop. I'd love it if they could do that. But the other part of it is, and I don't know that they're going to be able to police it at all. That's the reality of it, is having media that show up 15 minutes late and then still take their full time is completely disrespectful in my eyes. I started my interview 20 minutes late with Saka because the first person showed up 20 minutes late, and then the next person cut a few minutes off, and then the next person, and I actually ended mine early to try and be respectful who was next, and there was like 3 minutes left. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, you know, kudos to you, Tim, but I want to be respectful to either the customer that's meeting with Steve next, or to the media person that he's got an interview with, and not script the entire rest of the day. Because the first thing I did when I sat down was Steve looked at me, he goes, Tim, I'm so sorry. I know that was 20 minutes. It shouldn't have happened. The first interview that I did today totally screwed me over, and I've been trying to play catch up ever since. Like, media's got to be smart enough to realize, like, hey, I had a half an hour planned. I showed up 20 minutes late. Guess what? I've only got 10 minutes with them.
Yeah, you know, and some of these media need to realize, you know, like so we did 20 minutes with Saka, and I was trying to keep it under 10, you know, but it's Saka. But they need to realize that they can't film these 20, 30, 40-minute videos all day long. Nobody's watching these videos. You know, I can't tell you how many people that Kerr and I went up and they're like, okay, so what do you guys do? And I go, you got about 3 minutes. You know, to tell your story. And then I do 4 to 5 minute videos, 4 to 5 minutes. So many people are like, oh my God, thank you guys so much. I'm like, listen, I'm not here to, you know, nobody's going to watch all these. Everybody has 3 or 4 minutes of time to watch a video. Nobody's watching 30, 40 minutes, you know, unless it's like Pete Johnson, Steve Saka, you know, like those guys tell stories.
I mean, they're telling stories, but even Pete Johnson and Steve Saka aren't going to be giving you 40 minutes worth of content at a trade show. No. You know what I mean? They know that that's ridiculous too. And that's why I appreciate you guys, because you both made appointments with me, Tim and Kevin. You came over when you said you would. You took the amount of time you said you would, and off you go. And that's exactly, if it can be done, then let's do it. So I don't know. I want to focus on the retailer. Obviously, doing an interview is important. We want other retailers who aren't there to see what's happening, and you guys are the vehicle for that. But like you said, at a certain point, it's just it's a lot. It's a lot. It's too much.
That should be part of. And Tim, you said something which I think is you know, a testament to the way we think, but is definitely not realistic. It's people being self-aware. Yeah, it's like, you know, that's the vetting process. You know, they should just have you know, the next time all of the media in a PCA, you know, Zoom meeting, and say, are you self-aware? Are you sure? Are you sure you're self-aware? Because they're not even self-aware on some of those Zoom meetings. I mean, let alone when you're sitting there, you know, having like Kevin and I just standing there going, okay, we'll come back. And it's like, we come back 15, 20 minutes later. You're like, you're still here?
Yeah. Like what are you doing? And some of these guys that are bringing 4 or 5 guys with them for their media, and they're all in the booth. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know,
not a camera, not a camera amongst you.
Yeah, you know, and like Coop and developing pallets. Like I said, those guys bring a team of people, then they split up.
But they're in different places.
They're
smart. 2 or 3 guys.
They're smart.
You
split up.
Yeah, you don't have 5 guys showing up to your booth, and it's just like, what the hell is going on here? You know, it's
like that Chris Farley skit where he's like, "Remember that time you made that really great cigar?"
Yeah.
Really cool. I remember. Yeah.
But there were, we did run into a few of the media guys. It was their first time, and you could tell they were awestruck, and and it was just like, but yeah, you still got to,
which is cool. You don't want to lose that, right? You
got to have that new excitement. You got to have that new excitement in the industry.
Somebody's got to grab the torch and keep it going, right? Coop's not going to do it forever. You guys aren't going to do it forever. So new people being excited is necessary. And I know PCA is, as an organization, is spread thin at the trade show, but it would be. And I'm not a fan of structure, right? Obviously, but there's got to be some kind of way to police it as it's happening.
Yeah.
When you see a group of media badges, a cluster of 6 dudes who don't have a camera out, just chilling in a booth, maybe be like, "Hey guys, you got what you need? All right, cool, let's go." Because sometimes we're nervous to be like, "Hey guys, thanks, but you got to go." You know what I mean? Like it's hard for me to disengage gracefully. I don't want to.
Because there's always going to be somebody like, I talked to Brandon and we were in the middle of conversation,
that
and
Brandon
that big jackass told me to just like, no, you were there. For 20 minutes and you just, you were wasting time.
Yeah, because now you put me in a position to act like a dick, and that's on you. That's not on me, but you're not going to see it that way.
No, but then there's the good brands that are that way. Right. Well, and there's the good brands that are out there, and there's enough of them that we all know that, I mean, I'll do an interview and probably 75% of the interviews that I do, every single one of those people say, my booth is your booth. Come by anytime you need, hang out, because they know I'm going to respect their time, and
there's only one of you,
that it's not going to be abused. And it's just me. It's a one-man show with my tripod on wheels, which still got a ton of comments at PCA, which was funny. But you can tell the brands that are in tune with the media, that also know that it's a mutual, like, two-way street when it comes to respecting each other, that they're not just going to sit and camp out and be like, oh, I hope Rick Rodriguez is free for 3 minutes so I can fanboy and talk with him and get some extra scoop behind the scenes. But you also want, like you said, Brandon, you want those excited new media people. And one of them, I mean, Sticks at the Shore, Robert was there, and I talked with him and hung out with him quite a bit. And he's a great guy. And he had all the excitement in the world, and he fanboyed out all show long, which was exciting.
He also stuck to the program.
He did. Yeah. He absolutely did. And I talked with Patrick Legreed because we were on the same flight going back to Phoenix, coming home. And we sat and had a beer before getting on the plane. And he was asking me a question. We were just sort of debriefing from the show. And I said, it's cool seeing the new people that are there and their excitement. But I've never been that fanboy kind of thing. Yeah, I was excited of like, oh, cool, I got to talk with this person, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I shook Nick Melillo's hand, or I talked to Eric Espinoza and he said bro to me 5 times starting a sentence. I was never that person. And Patrick goes, but we want that. So I said, I agree with you. We want that excitement. I just personally don't understand it because I've never really been the kind. I mean, I'll stand next to whoever and just be like, hey, nice to meet you. How's it going? I hope the show is going well. And I don't go crazy over it. But there is a need for that within the trade show and within the industry, because their level of overt excitement may bring awareness to somebody new that has no clue what the industry is about.
I'm kind of that way with some media guys as far as like fanboy goes. I was obviously a fanboy of both of you guys because I came from retail, but I was also a smoker. I was consuming your content while I was learning to consume cigars. And so when I met you guys both for the first time, I was like, oh, shit, like it was cool. And now it's like I'm still a fanboy about manufacturers, too. You know what I mean? Like I still pinch myself that I get to work with Hochi Blanco.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting in Hochi's office and he's treating me like his long lost Dominican son. And it's still surreal. Or Matt Booth hanging out in the shop with us after his flight. That 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get rid of my erection. You know what I mean? Like it's all like still very fanboy for me, but you can navigate. Like you can still do what you're there to do. You can still put your big boy pants on and focus on a program.
It's also being there for the right reasons. Kevin will chuckle at this because it's like you do your own self check. And we had the best interview that never happened.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, only because it was very genuine. It was just like this, a genuine engagement.
Tom Lazuka.
Tom Lazuka, yeah.
Okay.
We got the fucking tour. I mean, everything. And then afterwards,
I know.
Like, what? Oh,
yeah, we just walked up to like, hey, how's it going, Tom? And then like 12 minutes later, like, the fuck didn't we film this? But it was, but so I'm like,
that's what I said. That's a self check. It's like when you can have that moment and then you kind of chuckle about it, that you had a good conversation with someone that you respect. Great, just a genuine conversation. And you're not always looking to, capture that moment. Afterwards, you kind of kick yourself in the ass because it was a great moment.
But even though you didn't have a camera rolling, you can still extrapolate that into content. You still had a conversation you can publish, right? So you still got something out of it. But yeah, I don't know, man. And like Coop got me started on my cigar nerd journey back in the day when he was doing cameos on the Stogie Geeks podcast. You remember that shit?
Yeah,
2009, 2010. Coop is one of the first pillars of the industry that I was tuned in with. And so now when I see Coop walking down the aisle, I'm like, oh shit, here he comes. Here comes Coop, and I don't know if he knows me from Adam, and that's fine. But we all still fanboy a little bit. I don't know if maybe Saka doesn't. He might be the other one.
I still fanboy. I mean, I fanboy over Pete Johnson. Pete's a great friend of mine. We text, call. He's a great dude. The only one I get nervous is about Saka because I'm gonna say something fucking dumb, and then he's gonna call me out later on. And it's just like,
but that's I'm going to a roast, I
know. And it's like, God, don't say anything fucking dumb this time. And I always fucking do, That's
why I don't say much around him. I'm not.
Yeah.
I've been there, done that.
Don't give him ammo.
I'm good. Nope.
Yeah. But I love Steve. Steve, I always say he tolerates me. He loves Jessica. Absolutely in love with Jessica. Tolerates me because of her. So Brandon,
it was funny that you mentioned about Coop because it was at, I think it was PCA or TPE, one of them. I don't remember. I think it was PCA my second year there, so it would have been 23. So I walk up to him because I'm this little guy who has my channel and have been around, but I'm used to being sort of the quiet guy in the corner when it comes to media content and people being familiar with me, which is fine. I enjoy that. And I walk up and I just went to introduce myself to him and I was like, "Hey, Coop," and he goes, "You're Cigar Show Tim." And I was like, "Yeah, nice to meet you." And I didn't even get to say anything else. And he goes, "I love your content. I love what you do. You can tell that you enjoy it." And I looked at him and I thought, "Wait, you know me?" I'm just Cigar Show Tim. And it wasn't a fanboy thing. It was one of those like, oh, I guess people do pay attention and I'm, not bigger than I think. Nothing like that at all. Yeah. But there are people in the industry that have been doing this for years longer than I have that enjoy my content. I must be doing something right. So it was a cool boost of confidence in what I do. But it was one of those things I didn't fanboy out, but it was one of those like, oh, that's cool. I guess there are people here that, are semi-familiar with me.
Well, I had the same experience with Nick Melillo at Cuban Creations. We've come from the retail side, so he obviously knows us through that side. But on the manufacturing side, there's no reason for him to pay attention to what we're doing. And I walk up and shake his hand, tell him it's great to see him. Haven't seen him in a while. And he goes, "Yeah, Brandon, I've been watching you, and I'm a big fan of what Apostate's doing. Keep that up." And for me, that's like, well, you don't have a reason to say that, Mr. Melillo, but thank you, because it does matter.
That's high praise.
Yeah. I love Nick, and we never talk about cigars. I always talk about the Ark of the Covenant, everything else. Nick and I don't. We rarely ever talk about cigars.
The good stuff.
But my greatest Nick Melillo moment, and Karen knows I've told the story, was at this year's Great Smoke. I was there at the Thursday night event before the show. Nick and I were just talking, hanging out at his little table. He was the sponsor of that night's event, and someone had yelled from behind, and then we both turn, and this guy's like, "Oh my God, I finally get to meet you." So he starts walking up with his hand out, so I'm sitting, you sit next to Nick. Nick puts his hand out, walks right by Nick and gives me a big hug. I can't believe I finally get to meet you. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, so that was great.
Yeah.
That's it. But you talk about Cigar Coop. I just want to touch his head sometimes. Like, how much information is it always throbbing?
Oh,
you listen to Coop interview somebody,
dictionary,
and he will bring up shit from 10 years ago. So, like, the manufacturer won't know something about an old cigar, and Coop will learn him about a cigar that he made 10 years ago. And it's just like, how did you remember that? Like, you've interviewed every, so that man is just, he's a wizard. No, I don't know.
This industry is lucky to have him. Guys like him, and obviously at a certain point, that's going to be you guys, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, we're lucky to have people who care enough to not get involved on the manufacturing side and take it a step further than just a consumer, or, taking the risk to be a retailer and just being a nerd and telling other people about that nerd kingdom that they've built. Like, that's really fucking cool. And I know it's not exclusive to cigars, but I think in cigars we just do it better. I think the people who are consuming in that fashion and then sharing that information via media like you guys are really, really good at what you do, and we're lucky to have you on our side.
It's fun that we all get rich off of it, right?
Yeah, of course. Me too. Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
We get so rich we can afford lunch at DeFuniak Springs at the Pizza Hut buffet. So I have a question for each of you guys, and I'll start with Brandon, because you said you've been to several, both as a retailer and as a cigar brand owner. What was the highlight of this trip for you?
The highlight.
And it doesn't have to be cigar related. What was the highlight of this trip where you're like, all right, man, that was the highlight of this trip if I look back on it?
There were so many. I think the highlight, I would kick myself if I didn't say meeting the sales force and everybody involved over at Oveja Negra, their distribution team, their sales team. James and Angela I've known for years, but getting to kind of be welcomed into the fold, no pun intended, was really, 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 really cool. That I've been a Black Label fan for years. Shit, I've got their logo tattooed on my neck. You know what I mean? Black Label is in my blood and has been for a long time. So for them a few months ago to reach out and tell us that they wanted us to be a part of what they're doing was really special. But seeing it come together and having those face-to-face conversations with a sales force that genuinely wants to sell our product alongside theirs, and is excited to smoke it and learn about us and turn around and tell our story for us is insane. I got emotional several times. I cried at PCA, and that's fine, and you guys can know that. It's all good. But it's just one of those that, like, you spend weeks on the road. You spend sleepless nights wondering if you're making the right call. You're taking financial risks. You're risking the wellness of your family because they're missing out on time with you. And you wonder what it's all for. And then it culminates into opportunities like this that kind of reaffirm, that you're probably on the right path. The thing that you chose to do is paying off. So for me, the highlight was getting to sit down with them, commune with them, and figure out how to move forward as a little group instead of us just on our own out here,
So the follow-up question to that, and it's going to be the one for Kevin and Tim too. Outside of your own brand, Apostate, did you have an opportunity to smoke a cigar that you were like, wow, this is really good?
Specific to the trade show?
Yeah.
What did I smoke?
It's okay. Yeah, it's not.
I did. The highlight for me, I smoked a few, and there's a lot of good shit, but the Mr. Sinistro, fucking
crazy, isn't it?
I haven't had it yet. I haven't had mine yet
either. And I'm not just saying that because James is a good friend. Like, James is my boy, and Coleman's my boy, and I love Sinistro, and we've been mixed up together for 5 or 6 years. But that Mr. Sinistro, like last year or the year before, they did the NV, and that was mind blowing. Yeah, they upped it. I didn't think they could top it, and they topped it. The Mr. Sinistro is a really, really good cigar. And anybody who sees it on a shelf anywhere, don't think about it. Pick it up. Don't look at the price tag. Fucking light that thing on fire and enjoy.
Nice. So, Kevin, I'll go to you because I could see you're chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
I could see that slight gangster lean moving forward and lips trembling. What was your highlight of the trip?
You know, it was
strings.
It was driving out there with you, Kerr. You know, it was a boys' weekend. You know, and no women, no wives, no complaints, no.
Can you give an answer that's not going to get you in trouble, Kevin? When we got to the damn location, I'm trying to help you out. But it was me. You know, you always hear the phrase. You know, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. Well, this time I could have done without the fucking journey. But it was still. So I mean, Kerr and I have a story we'll tell for a lifetime now. You know, of a trip out to New Orleans and the mishaps along the way. You know, so that was definitely the one of the highlights of the trip. Sharing a couple moments with Pete Johnson. Tim, you were there. You were filming that interview for me, and it was just those couple of moments beforehand where we're just talking about dieting and intermittent fasting, and those are the conversations that we have. Like generally when Saka and I talk, or Malillo or Pete, or like we don't get together with these guys. It's not about cigars. Cigars are, you know, we talk about them all the time. So when I get to meet those guys and we just get to talk about random shit, you know, like you know, how's the diet going, things like that. And then he got to share with me. He gave me a little sticker of his dad, you know, and then told me a story about his dad used to love to come to PCA and get stickers. And then he made some stickers of his dad, and his dad would hand out like the stickers of himself, and was so proud about that. And I love sharing that. Yeah, with the mustache. Yeah. I love sharing that those little couple minutes with Pete. So that was definitely a cool time. And your cigar?
So many great cigars. Like I said, the Mr. Sinistro. Obviously, I love everything Apostate does. I love the little cigarillos. Big Sky putting out some bangers.
Yeah,
killer.
You know, some killer stuff. We got a lot of good cigars I still have to go through, but man, like the Big Sky that I smoked is just so good. That K Fire by Karen Berger, like I said, Mr. Sinistro. There's a lot of great cigars. So a few not so great cigars, you know, a few little guys that were there, and it's just sometimes, you know, and maybe we'll get into that, Kerr, after this. You can talk about, you know, you have your thoughts on being a little guy coming to PCA your first year or two. We can get into that after this, but I
have a question for you guys after Tim goes.
Yeah, and then before Tim goes, I just lit up. So speaking of Apostate cigars, just tell us a little bit, because I think this is the one Tim is smoking too. The Sword of Laban.
Yeah, Sword of Laban. Yeah.
Yeah. What is this? You know, so give yourself a little plug on this cigar.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Sword of Laban. So all of our stuff is thematic, right? Everything that we do when we make a blend, it's got a story to tell. And the Sword of Laban is a story from the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon, you guys familiar maybe or maybe not with the premise, is basically what Joseph Smith claimed was another testament of Jesus Christ. It's a tribe of folks from Jerusalem who left Jerusalem at God's command and went to the Americas. And that's, you know, according to Joseph Smith, where all the natives here come from. 23andMe proves otherwise, but that's fine. It's one of those just almost biblical stories where before they leave Jerusalem, they have to get the record of their people that's on these gold plates. Those are the gold plates that Joseph Smith later translated to make the Book of Mormon. And so God commands his servant to go get the plates from this guy named Laban, who's a you know, whatever, diplomat or something in the city. And he's got him. And Laban doesn't want to give him up. And so God says, you know what, go back later tonight. He's going to be drunk. I'm going to send him out to you. Wait in the alley. And when he comes out, take his sword and cut his head off and take the plates. You put on his clothes, you go inside, his servants will think you're him, and you can get the plates and you guys can get out of there and do what I commanded you to do. So his servant does that. He takes Laban's sword and he beheads him with it, and he takes the records and they leave. So the sword of Laban is both the namesake and the tool used to behead the guy who's holding an ancient record. So that's the story. Let's talk about the cigar. It is a 7 1/4 by 47 Churchill. I love the 47 ring gauge, a little more traditional Cuban size. Really gets you the potency of the blend. It's got a Corojo wrapper from Ecuador, San Andres Mexican binder, and then you've got all DR in the filler. A lot of Corojo from Jacagua, which is basically the DR's version of Jalapa. So everything that grows there is a little sweeter. It's got some earthiness to it. When I smoke that cigar, I get a nice dried fruit profile out of it. I get some cocoa, not a ton of earthiness, not a ton of pepper and spice. Pretty silky smooth. And
I love the Corojo tang that's in it. Just enough of the Corojo tang.
That little tang, that little sweet tang on the end, almost a citrus, right? And you can smoke that bad boy for 2 hours if you wanted to. I really like taking my time with that one. I make sure that when I smoke it, I've got a couple of hours to sit back and enjoy it. I'm glad you lit it up. You're smoking that one right now, Tim?
Yeah. It won't last me 2 hours. Oh, I love this. I mean, I've had this many, many, many times, as you know, and it's the Moroni's Trumpet, was on my top list for last year, and I absolutely love that cigar, Feathered Serpent. Like, it's going to sound like this stupid little cliche platitude for you. You guys don't make a bad cigar. Like,
thank you.
You just don't. And so it doesn't matter whether it's sort of Laban or it's, Liahona or any of the other ones that you have. I enjoy it every single time. But yeah, this one, especially because of the format that it's in, really enjoy it.
Did you get a sample of the Corona? Did I give you one of the smaller ones?
I was looking through my tub, and I'll admit I didn't dig deep enough. I don't know if I did or not.
Let me know.
Okay.
We'll fix it.
That works.
So Tim, you're smoking a cigar you can lose your head over because it's such a great cigar.
There we go.
What was your favorite part of this year's PCA, and your favorite smoke that you've tried?
Favorite part was probably, it's a whole bunch that all came together. There are a lot of people that I've been familiar with, friends with, acquaintances, whatever label you want to put on it, like yourself, Kerr, where I finally got to meet some of you guys in person. That part I enjoy because I enjoy the actual community feel and being together and hanging out and that kind of stuff. I mean, I got to see you and Lee Mack and different people that I've never met before. But if there was probably like the top, theme or thing to take away is I got to give input and advice, at the level that I'm at right now, at least, to a lot of newer people that I didn't ever expect to do. Or, I mean, Kevin, like I said at the top of the show, the opening night party with that group, that podcast that came up to us and they're like, oh my gosh, we've seen you. What advice do you have? And it got to the point where not a rehearsed, sort of spiel, but like the general consensus in my head that came through was it's time and relationships. Like people are like, oh, I want to get to this point, or I want to get to that point, or audio quality or video quality. And I always chuckle when they say that because it's not cheap to do. Kevin and I both know it's not cheap to have, the equipment that we have. But it came down to realizing that I've built a lot of relationships, and I had a really, really good, I mean, frankly, a dear brother to me. You guys all know him, Brandon Wells, that introduced me to a lot of people, and fantastic guy, well-known, respected in the industry, all of that. And I had him be that catalyst for me. And I got to just sort of reflect and realize that I got to give whatever level of input or guidance to people this year that I never really expected to be in that position, or have people ask me questions, because I'm used to not being a coupe or a half wheel or a, dojo or, any of those people that have been around for years and years and years. But the fact that people were asking questions, not coming up and being like, oh my gosh, it's you, but just like genuinely asking questions. It was cool to connect with people on that level and hopefully give them a little bit more encouragement to get to wherever it is they want to be. And some of them, I'm sure if they have YouTube channels, will surpass me and do great, and more power to them. That's awesome. It's never been about the masses and numbers for me. It's just been about chronicling my cigar journey. But that was probably the biggest thing, was meeting people that I've known for years that I haven't met in person, and then just getting to talk with newer content creators and media people, and just have conversations and get rid of the BS and the filters and the pretenses around it.
Right.
So, and then I will say that the Cigarillo is definitely up there. It's insane.
For the first time in history, some people are talking about a
Cigarillo
for the first time in cigar history.
I love it, because you know that we kind of went through the same thing when we dropped the Candela. We couldn't believe that people wanted to talk about it. And now having a Cigarillo that's raising eyebrows is interesting, because it's just not a niche in the market that there's a lot of demand for. So that's really cool.
Yeah. That one was really good. And the other one, and I haven't had my Mr. Sinistro yet. I've got it, but I'm gonna smoke it for review. And I'm really excited for it. I hope it's not too much hype where I expect too much going into it. But the one that really surprised me, because I don't care for a portion of their portfolio, is the new Plasencia Alma del Cielo. That was a really good cigar, and just the nuances in it. And yeah, they had the media thing and all the the different fanfare around it and all that, which was really cool to be present for and be a part of, and see again a bunch of media friends that were all there. But that cigar is just insanely good.
That's another company that doesn't make a bad stick. Plasencia is incapable of making a bad cigar.
I don't like I don't care for half of what they produce, just because it doesn't hit my palate. I don't have bad construction issue. I don't have any issues like that. I didn't care for the new one. It was okay. They make some bangers. They make some, but like I said, construction wise, you can never fault them for that. But that's like every cigar. That's like every cigar. I don't.
And their darker stuff, I'm not a huge fan of. Alma del Fuerte isn't a big wowie for me, and other people are like Alma del Campo, and all those things. They're not big wowies for me. They're good, but it's just not for my palate. The other one, and yes, they sponsored all of my content and everything as well. But I will tell you, the first morning that I was there, before the show even opened up, I was smoking the new Luciano Eleve, and that cigar surprised me a lot, because I know Luciano's portfolio very, very, very well. He's a dear friend of mine, all that stuff. But the Eleve to me is a game changer. I don't want to be corny and say it elevates their game, but it really does, because it's like how when they came out with Foreign Affair, and it was something that was very different, but people really enjoyed it. It's got a little bit of that kind of flair to it, and then it goes off on its own, and the flavor notes in there just sang to my palate. And so the Luciano Eleve was really good.
So Kerr, you're up next. Answer your own questions.
It being my first PCA, so there was a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of great moments. Like you, Tim, it was getting the chance to meet everybody in person. I've spoken to so many folks and over the years, and interviewed folks over the years. So it was really cool to be able to meet folks, especially like when I hugged Lee Mack for the first time. He was just like looking at me like I was fucking crazy. And then when he saw my name badge and he put the face and the name, he was like, "Oh!" But he like jumps on me. But at first he was just kind of like, "Hey, nice to meet you."
And then like a minute later, and he goes, "What was your name again?" And he goes, "Lee Mack, it's Kerr." And he goes, "Oh my God, Kerr!"
So I think that was pretty funny, but I don't know. I mean, it was really cool. I know that I had a really nice just private quick moment with Jose Blanco. It was really nice chat with him, and just about family and stuff, and that was it's always good to be able to see some familiar faces and also kind of circle back and have those moments. But I think the funniest moment for me was when Kevin got called up by Guy Fieri. That was like I didn't even post a picture because I'm like, I can post a picture, but it's not what happened. Like that
Right.
picture, it's not what he called Kevin first. Hey, you tall
Yeah,
guy.
he goes, hey, big guy.
Big guy, you're smoking a cigar. You got the hat on. You go first. And then Kevin's just like, "Who, me?" And I'm like,
"Yeah,
I don't care what happens." Guy Fieri could have given me a kiss after that. When I'm like, it ain't that story. I mean, and like you said, there's a lot of great cigars that I haven't even smoked. A lot of them. I think about what we smoked at the at PCA, and the New Illusion was really for me kind of like. I think it was the whole smoking that cigar with the flavor profile that it had. And then also talking to Dion and talking about Area 51. I'm like, I don't want to leave this spot or this moment.
That's peak Dion, yeah, dude.
his dad worked at Area 51.
Yeah, and the stories that he was telling, but that cigar, the story behind it was that the Tuanella, the story behind it and the cigar itself, it just really grabbed me. It really did. It was it transitioned. It had just enough spice to keep you engaged, but it wasn't like these pepper bombs that everyone wants to make. It was a truly well constructed and well flavorful and well blended cigar that just I didn't want to stop smoking it. I could have walked over and grabbed a couple more and got them a piece of cake and talked about his dad's experience at Area 51.
Then he talked to Kerr and I after that, and he's like, I got to get on the show, and he goes, I don't want to talk about cigars though. Let's talk about like the conspiracy theories and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like, if you don't want to talk about cigars, I don't want to talk about.
I could
cigars.
do that all night, man.
So let's do that. So those are I love those moments. So
Brandon, what was your question that you said you had?
Totally forgot. No idea.
Yeah,
it's fine. It doesn't matter.
I'll blame Kevin. Blame Kevin.
So Brandon, you were there as a retailer, so you've seen that side of it. You're there as a manufacturer. Kerr and I have talked about this. People have asked Kerr, hey, why haven't you displayed at PCA yet? Why haven't you displayed at PCA yet? And there's a lot that goes into that. And if you screw it up, you can screw it up big. Kerr, if you want to expand on that, because you've talked about it many times.
It's you got to be at that right moment where you have the money to not only pay for the event, for the trips, for your booth and everything else, but you also have to have the inventory. And that's a big investment. And I think for me, going here as media, but then also kind of having that brand owner mentality. You've seen a lot of there's a couple of folks I'm looking at going, man, this is not what I would want to have happen. I mean, you really got to make sure you got your shit together. You got to make sure that you have a team. You got to make sure that you're just not sitting around eating a hoagie, just kind of not paying attention to what's going on. So I think looking at all the different booths, I mean, you learn a lot. Like yours, Brandon. Your booth was very straightforward, very simple, but highly engaged, And then we've gone to other booths where you're looking at it going, man, you learn what not to do.
Right.
And then it almost kind of solidifies maybe some of those concerns that one would have being a smaller brand of going to the show. Because I think everybody goes there, and Brandon, you probably expand on this greater. Everybody, some folks expect I'm going to go to PCA, and now I'm going to arrive. That's me arriving. This is me being there. I can say I'm at PCA. It's all for the name, and this is going to set me on a new course. And sometimes it can set you to a new course to just ending the brand because you dished out all that money. You didn't put a lot of thought or effort into it, and then you just kind of go, okay, I was at PCA. That's great.
Yeah, because Kerr, we talked to that one booth, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing great. I brought 12 boxes with me, and I've only got like 4 left." Wait, what?
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 But that's the thing is your success level is that subjective, right? It really
and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And maybe you have a goal, and that goal has got to be set according to where you're at, right? The goal is set according to what you can fulfill and how thin you can spread yourself. So for us, this was a good year because we know that we're going to have support next month, right? We've got a whole distribution thing happening. We've got a whole sales force coming on ready to help us move our stuff. So I'm still going to be just as busy, but I'm going to be busy in a different way. And it's a more ideal way for me. It's not, I'm not going to be carrying as much of the stress on my shoulders by myself. I'm now basically in a supporting role for a sales force where they're the ones kind of carrying the burden, and that's great. I love that for us. So as far as, you know, securing a booth and figuring out what size and what the setup's going to look like and how much product you're going to bring and how many sales sheets and all that, you kind of have to plan for the worst and hope for the best, really. For us, we set a certain amount of price sheets to bring with us, and we went through all of them, and I didn't expect that. So it's one of those things where now we can assess and do more next time, and it's going to look different next time. But from the first trade show, was hard because nobody knew who the fuck we are. Right. So we spent a lot of time saying, oh, this is what apostate means. And here's where our cigars are being made. And this is who we are and where we come from. And we're definitely still doing that through the trade shows, but not as much. When people walk up to the booth now, they're like, oh, apostate, instead of what the fuck is apostate. Right. So it's a pretty dramatic shift in just 4 trade shows. And I think,
but you guys had the leg up because as retailers, you knew what you wanted from that person that was behind that booth. So you knew exactly what you wanted. So it was,
and that's why when you walk up to our table, you just see a table and you just see a backdrop. We can grab your attention as you're walking by, but we're not standing behind the table and we're not sitting on a couch. Not to take away from that, because that's comfortable and people enjoy that. But we're standing in front of the table. We're looking at the product with you. We're having a face-to-face, next to each other conversation. We're inches apart. We want you to be as engaged with what we're doing as we are. And the best way for us to do that is to get rid of all the extra shit and just have a conversation with you, because that's what happens in a retail shop. When we're working in the humidor in a shop, it's not about, okay, I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, tell me about a cigar you smoked. Let's see what we can do. But most of the time I'm asking you, what kind of experience do you want to have? And let's find something that fits the experience you want to have. It's the same way as a brand owner. What kind of experience do you want in your humidor from a brand? You want to have something that doesn't take up a huge footprint because shelf space is an issue everywhere. You want to have product that pops because people shop with their eyes. You want to have a brand that tells a story, because if you don't tell a story, there's something missing. And you want to have a good product. And if you can hit all of those and at least do enough of it well so that it feels cohesive, then every year you're going to see more engagement. And that's kind of where we're at. For us, it's not a question of, okay, we're going to open this many accounts. That's not a metric that we're worried about. The metric we're worried about is having real conversations, building real relationships, because we know that those, when they say yes, are going to go further than just, oh, hey, here, open the account. We're doing this special today. Here, smoke these 5 cigars. We brought a bunch. Here you go. It's not about that. It's about building a relationship, because if I can do that at a trade show with you, then you're going to walk away from that trade show knowing that you're taken care of already. Brandon and Kendrick showed you that while you were in the booth, you were important, your time mattered, and it was worth building that relationship. Because I'm not just telling you about Apostate. I'm asking you about your shop. Where are you? How long have you been there? Tell me about your clientele. How many regulars do you have? What are your hours? What's a good crowd look like on a Wednesday night? Why are you doing this? What pulled you to retail? What keeps you in it? Why are you at the trade show? So, for us, it's way more about engagement than how many accounts we opened. And that's nice because, we don't open 100 accounts. And if we had a goal to do that, we would fall on our faces and feel extremely disappointed. So we're kind of avoiding that a little bit, but we're building relationships that matter.
Well, and no matter how much you set up your booth, you're still better than Robert Caldwell was 2 years ago at PCA with, a 4 foot picnic table and a folding chair.
we shared a divider. He was literally right behind us. That was so funny.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was there's a couple manufacturers that like Jeremy from Wildfire. I couldn't believe he wasn't there. There's a few manufacturers you just wonder. He's like, oh man, where what happened? It just kind of sucks. You worry about the and on the media side, we worry about the brand, we worry about our friends, and it's like, are they did something happen? Okay. Yeah, hope they're okay. Hope the brand is strong. So.
Yep.
Tim, I thought maybe the highlight was when we got locked out of the media room.
Oh, that was hilarious. And yes. Yeah. So the two of you, Kevin and Kerr, come walking up to me, and Kevin's like, I got to get my batteries. I got to, recharge. We got to go and do the interview. I think it was Pete Johnson that you were doing. Got to go and get my stuff going. And it's locked. You have the code. And I saw the text from Kevin right when I looked up and saw both of you. And I walk over there and I was like, no, I didn't know there was a code. And you're like, I'm banging on the door and banging on, and of course it's, flexible walls. So you're going to know when somebody's knocking. And then they finally show up and they come after I call Antoine, and they come and they unlock the
wall. They pulled back the door for a wall.
Yeah.
With the wall.
And the group that was in there doing their podcast the entire time looked like nothing had ever happened. And we're like, oh, were you trying to get in? And they were like, what do you mean were we trying to get in? We're basically broke down the door.
Well, you and Kevin left, and the guy who came showed up, and the walls, it's a aluminum structure, and the walls are Velcroed. So he pulled back the wall, punched through the other side, and then opened a door. You guys left, and I sat there, and there's guys at the table, and I'm like, you hear anybody knocking? Like, guy just punched through the effing wall. Like, oh yeah,
we are knocking comes through on their audio. I hope it does.
We couldn't hear. I was like, really? I guess the man coming through the wall wasn't a dead giveaway that someone.
Yeah.
And I think
Kevin kind of like Kool-Aided the whole wall.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man.
and those are the guys that later on questioned why we were there. What do you guys do? Fuck you.
What?
I threw the question back to him. I said, what do you do?
Yeah.
He was going around the room. Hey, what do you do?
Don't you know who I am?
What's your name? What do you do? What do you do? I was like, hey, what do you do? Why are you here?
And it's funny because they were all like in suit and ties, like dressed nice. And I'm sitting there after I realized that you're an audio only podcast. No one knows you're wearing a suit. So why are you wearing a suit?
Listen, I appreciate that. We know if they're doing manufacturers and stuff and they're doing interviews, and great, but
sure.
I thought I did the questioning around doing round robin everybody on what you do really kind of irritated me. So I just threw it right back at him and just let him sit there and stutter bug his way through it. I think what was even funnier is Kevin said he was mad at me for about a good 10 minutes because he thought that I did not record the Pete Johnson interview.
Yes, that's right.
And then realized you did.
Tim got it. So
I will say the guys that were in the media room, Cigar Church, I think it was a group of
those are good guys. Yeah,
they were really good guys. They were totally kick back, chill. Oh, what do you do? And just shooting the breeze back and forth, which is what it should be like when you're in the media area, not the other group that was there. But there were some really good media people that I'd never met before and never even heard of. So that part was cool to meet and see that, there were still new people coming into the industry.
Yeah.
And like Brandon said earlier, there was like 300 badges given out. Like it took us 2 days to run into Coop for the first time.
Right.
I don't know how many media people were actually there because we never, other than the couple of times that they caused some headaches for Kerr and I, we never ran into those guys, ever.
I never saw them except in the room.
Yeah. And I don't know how like Charlie from Half Wheel, they've been putting out like 15 videos a day for the last 2 weeks. And I don't know where they got them. I never saw Charlie I saw Patrick once walking, but I don't know where those like fucking ninjas.
Yeah, I saw Patrick a couple times.
I saw Brooks when he was at our booth, and that was it. That was the only time I saw anybody from Half Wheel. I didn't see Patrick or Charlie walking around. I didn't see really anybody unless they came to the booth. It's really easy to get lost on that floor.
Yeah,
with just how wide it was.
Some people you never saw, and I kept running into the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
You keep asking. I was like, "Holy shit!" I see you.
Yeah, and you actually stayed in your booth, Brandon. I remember from the from last year. I'm not going to call out any of the manufacturers, but it was a couple times. Jessica and I had walked over there to get some interviews at the little pavilion area, and nobody was manning the booth. And then we look around, and we you see him talking to Pete Johnson or Nick Perdomo, and it was like, "Hey, you're here to make money, bro." It's like, you want an interview? Whatever. We just kept walking. People just want to be there to be there. Yeah. But Brandon, for manufacturers that want to maybe I'd like to display at PCA. What is because you you don't have an over elaborate booth like Perdomo. I think you have the average booth. Is what a lot of people, same with Nick from El Mago. You guys had similar size,
simple and effective.
That's it. What's a cost for, a booth like that, basic going out, and you're talking about giving out cigars as well. What should a small boutique manufacturer look to spend for a weekend out there?
If you're looking to break into PCA and it's going to be your first PCA, and you're talking about product and a backdrop and a tablecloth and a table, maybe some stools or, some little trinkets to put on the table. I would say you could do it for $10K. You could do it for $10K or less, which if you're getting into the cigar game as a manufacturer, you should probably have $10K available. If you don't, then don't start. You know what I mean? Taking the leap into PCA has never been an expense that we're spending a lot of time worrying about. We're going to do it. We know we can keep it cost effective. We stayed in an Airbnb. We're not worried about whether we can buy lunch. I would say put 10K aside, and you can get it done for that.
Now, did you guys have? Do you ramp up inventory at all? Some manufacturers do, some don't. They take their orders, and then you're going to get it in 6 months. How do you go about that process?
We actually brought less of our core line inventory this year than we did last year. Because we knew we were going to have the Coronas, and we knew we were going to have some Cigarillos, and we were going to have a lot to talk about, and we could kind of spread it out. So we don't do a production ramp up for PCA. Our production is at a point where we don't want to run out of product for the retailers. If something happens and we have a bunch of retailers come online, we want to be able to ship to them. And by having that inventory in place, we've got enough for PCA. It's fine. Right. We're not bringing 200 boxes of everything. I think we brought, for the core line full size stuff, pretty sure we brought 8 bundles of each blend, and 2 of those were used to fill the display tray. So we had 6 bundles of each blend that we were pulling samples from. And then for the Coronas, I think we had maybe 10 bundles of each blend, and 1 of those filled the tray. So we had 9 that we were giving samples out of, and then we had 4 or 5 bundles of cigarillos. So were there a lot of people at the booth? Did we give away a lot of product? Absolutely. Did we run out? I still have product that we brought home with us. So and now those will go. I'm not going to send them back to the warehouse to ship to customers. That's going to be, freebies at an event, or stock for a rep, or some for me to smoke here and there. You know what I mean?
With that follow-up question, it's not only what you're bringing to PCA, but also the expectation on the orders you're going to be taking. I know you have a very solid inventory, but do you anticipate or do you predict or forecast where you want how many new shops you want to open up, and then also taking those new orders and take that in consideration for over and above what your current shops are ordering per month. And I think that's the ramp up of getting inventory ready for PCA.
Yeah, no, it kind of just falls in line with our existing inventory model. It's one of those where after the show's over and we land back in Salt Lake City, that next day I'm on the laptop and I'm processing orders, and the orders are shipping that week.
Right.
For stuff that we have available. So the Coronas, those aren't shipping till June, but the pre-order I have, it's ready to go. so that as soon as they land, we ship. I would say hard math, maybe 1 out of every 6 or 7 retailers we talk to opens the account at PCA. And then you've got a good 4 to 5 weeks after where you're hearing from people like, hey, talk to PCA. Hope you're rested. We want to bring you in. Here's our order. So it's not staggering for us. We're not ever at a point where we're freaked out or we're worried that we're going to run out of product. It's just nice to see that, even though they didn't order on the spot, they took the price sheet home. They looked it over. They made a plan. They were intentional, and then they called us, and that's awesome. You can't hope for better. So, yeah, man, we did pretty good. It was a good show, and I expect next year when we're in the Black Label booth and we've had a year almost to adjust to having a sales force talking about us, we might be at a point at next year's trade show where maybe we're concerned about our inventory levels in the warehouse, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we're ready to ship, and stuff should start arriving. When people get home from the show, they should have a package waiting for them with their product in it.
Now, how's shipping going to change with Black Label? Does James have like a bonded warehouse in the States here, or does he ship from the factory? I know some people do that. Like Cavalier does that.
James offers you something a little different. So their distributor is LJ Zuka. They're based out of New Jersey, and Scott Zuka distributes a lot more than just cigars. So their distribution network is expansive, it's streamlined, it's clean, it's a well-oiled machine. And thank God they get to do cigars for us out of it, because they're like selling candy to grocery stores and shit like that, right? So,
okay.
So LJ Zuka is the distributor. It is not a bonded warehouse. So when the product ships from the Dominican Republic and goes through customs, we are paying the S-chip tax on import. That's different for us because going through Illusione, they have a bonded warehouse, which means no taxes collected on S-chip or anything like that until it actually ships to the retailer, at which point we've already captured that money. So that is different for us in this sense. We're a little more in control of the finances by making this move. It's not a bonded warehouse. Product is shipping from New Jersey instead of Nevada. So the East Coast guys are going to love it. The West Coast guys are already used to it because they're buying Black Label anyway, and they know the program.
Okay.
So it's not a new distributor who people are going to have to get used to. It's whatever is happening with your Oveja Negra stuff is what's going to happen with Apostate.
Right.
Nice.
So as a retailer that you going as a retailer, which you and Kendrick did, going to the PCA, what was the process of coming home? And you have all these samples, you have all these price sheets. Was it something you guys worked on? It was like, oh, hey, we're going to spend the next couple weeks, we're going to go through all these cigars, or was it like, months and months, or what's the process of
it wasn't months and months. It was weeks. When we go to PCA, we go there with the mindset that we're going to bring in maybe this many new brands, and we're going to do this budget with Drew Estate, this budget with My Father, this budget with Tatuaje, and you try to stick to it. We always overspend, but that's what you do. How can you not, right? But for the new brands, it was very rare to open on the spot. It almost never happened that way for us. It happened that way for us with La Galera, and that's why we had a really cool relationship with Hochi, and that's why he's making cigars for us now, because we went in heavy and we went in on the spot, and he was brand new to having his own brand to sell. So it was kind of a cool thing for both of us, right? That's one of the few exceptions where we know at the show, yes, let's bring it in. Usually we go home, we let the cigars rest in the humidor for a few days, and then we get the staff involved. And everybody on staff is smoking as many of the samples as we can. And we just ask them, hey, it's not really about if you love the cigar, can you sell it? Do you feel comfortable with the story and with the brand? Is this something that you think you could sell? It really helps if it's a banger product and you have no question about whether you can sell it. But if maybe it's not for your palate, but customers have come in and asked for it, so there's demand already, that makes it a lot easier. but it was probably a few days to a couple of weeks after the show where we would kind of gather our thoughts and say, okay, let's pick 3 or let's pick 4. And these are the new brands we're bringing in this year. We really only introduced new brands via PCA. It's not like we're sitting in November bringing in a new brand, right? So yeah, it's a bit of a process, but it's more intentional. And I think what we're seeing as manufacturers is that we're not the only ones who operate that way. A lot of retailers have that mindset. They want to take their time. They don't want to smoke it at the trade show when their palate's fried. They're like, hey, we've heard a lot of great things. I'm not going to smoke this sample you just gave me yet. I'm going to take it home. I'm going to smoke it with the guys at the shop. I've got this customer who really lets me know if something new is worth it for him. So I want him to smoke it, stuff like that. It's very intentional. Yeah.
So how do you do the show as Beehive Cigars though? Did you have somebody from the shop there going around and talking with other people?
Absolutely. Yeah. Kendrick and I are, what was that?
I said, I wondered the same thing.
Yeah. So Kendrick and I are holding down the booth. I'm no longer on the payroll of Beehive. I'm just kind of their mascot now, so I don't have anything to do with their decision making. But they ask me for my input now and then. But we had a dude named Taylor and a dude named Scott. Taylor is the manager of the humidor as far as ordering goes and spending Kendrick's money goes, and then Scott is the pipe and pipe tobacco guy. So those dudes were both out there. They split up. They were both visiting different booths. They come back, they talk to Kendrick. They say, hey, when you got a second, or it can wait till after dinner, here's what I found. Here's what I think. And for the most part, Kendrick's like, cool, if you believe in it, if you know you can sell it, go. Kendrick's not micromanaging shit. We don't really have time for that.
So when you guys do find a boutique or not boutique or any new company, like what's your buy-in? Do you try and do like 1 or 2 blends, a couple sizes? Like, what do you guys normally like when you want to bring someone in?
It depends on the manufacturer, because sometimes they'll have a minimum, right? Like us, our minimum is when you open an account with Apostate, we want you to bring in 3 bundles of each blend. That's 24 bundles. They're 12 count bundles. So for any other brand,
that's not bad.
That would be a 12 box order. It's less than $2,000. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Right. It's no big deal. So that's an opening order. So if that's in play, we want to say, okay, can we afford the opening order, and can we sell the opening order? Are we going to get enough turns to justify ordering it a second time? It's not the first order that we're worried about, because we know we can sell it one time. It's the second, third, fourth order that we're worried about. Are people going to come back for this on a consistent basis, or are we wasting space in the humidor? Maybe you have a really good product, but it doesn't catch on because we're in Utah and regionally it doesn't appeal to people. Like Caldwell is an example of that. Love Caldwell's tobacco, love Caldwell cigars, love Robert. He's a fucking character. We cannot sell Caldwell cigars in Salt Lake City to save our fucking lives. Can't do it. It's just not a thing here. And that's fine. So that's part of it. But usually the decision comes down to buy-in from the staff, and we would like to see a little ahead of time customer demand. People coming in and saying, hey, do you guys carry this? Because then we know we've got a customer built in already, right? So we try,
and that's what our good buddy Abe at Smoke Inn, that's one of his like prerequisites. Is he, are the customers asking for it? Are they, like he brought in West Tampa. That was one new brand he brought in this year. Because same thing, people were asking for it.
Great brand.
And then Abe's a really good example, because last year you told Abe to come see us, right? You were like, hey, Abe, love you. You got to go check out Apostate. And he did. And he loved the product. He loved the tobacco. He loved the cigars. He loved the story. He seemed to like us. We're good guys, right? It wasn't a brand that was right for him at the time because of packaging, right? So packaging is a non-negotiable for him. Your product has to come in a box because his guys want to buy a box, right? We don't have boxes. We have bundles. It's a no-go. And that's really it. So I'll be happy to let Abe know right now that by 2026 we'll have our cigars in boxes. So maybe next year we're the brand he brings in. You know what I mean? Abe, are you listening, Abe? Anyways, so there are things like that. It's got to be the right fit for your shop too. Whether it's got a lot of hype online or not, it has to be something that fits what you're doing as a retailer.
Now, does it help when or help or hurt that if you bring a product in and you never hear from that brand owner again? Like
sucks. That sucks. Yeah, that super sucks. The number one thing as a retailer is feeling like you have a relationship with the person you're giving money to, right? So if that relationship is just a transactional situation at a trade show, it's probably not going to pan out. Maybe I really like the cigar. Maybe it's selling well. But if I'm not hearing from somebody, or if I can't reach somebody when I make a phone call, sorry, you know, there are people who will talk to me, and I will give those people my money to continue to take care of me. And so we try to be accessible that way too.
Yep. Yeah. It's not like ordering office supplies and you don't care who at Office Depot or Staples fulfills it. And you're like, okay, I got my product. Who cares? I'm going to sell it and move it. I mean, it's been said for years in this industry, it is relationship driven. And if the relationship isn't there, then that brand, you know, won't be there, plain and simple.
Nothing matters more. Honestly, that is the number one thing that determines the shops that do well with us versus maybe the shops who don't, or are just a little aloof, because that relationship is a two-way street. Right. If I call a retailer as a brand owner and I can never get the buyer on the phone, or they're not answering my emails or my texts, I want to know, is there a problem with the product, or is there a problem with the relationship, or what part can I work on for you? Because I'm willing to do it. You know what I mean? So if that relationship isn't a two-way street, it's probably not going to be long on the shelf. They're going to order one time. They're going to sell through it, and when it's gone, you're not going to hear from them again.
Yep.
Yeah, Karen and I have talked about that many times. You know, you got to have that. You got to have that relationship.
It's a relationship industry. I mean, it just really is.
It really is, and even down to the act itself, right? Even down to picking a cigar off the shelf, sitting down in a chair with your buddies, lighting it up.
Yep.
That part is relational as well, and I think that just it pours upwards. And you know, if you're selling a brand and it's doing well, and you call the brand up and you say, "Hey, the brand's doing well. We'd love to have you out for an event. Can we get Brandon out here? Can we get Kendrick out here? You know, the sales rep is great, and we love them, and we want them here too. But the guys want to meet you. They want to hear your story. They want to shake your hand. They want to ask you questions. And I say no. You know what I mean?
Well.
Yeah. So it's like, of course I'm going to say yes. I want to meet them too. I want to go to Ohio. I'm going to Ohio on Friday. I've never been to fucking Ohio. And I want to meet everybody out there who's smoking my shit, because it's doing really well in Toledo right now. So we're going to blow the roof off the place, and I'm going to thank each and every one of them individually. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, and hopefully you make your money back. You know, no, we've heard a lot, you know, to where it's you know, from manufacturers that you get out there and it's just, you know, you harp on there and then like they have nothing set up, like no game plan of just hey, just come out here. What do you guys got set up? I don't know, just thought you'd stop by and just smoke a cigar.
You know, do people even know that we're here? My three regulars do.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much that we benefit from coming from the retail side, because we know what we want to see when we do an event, and we know how we're going to support the brand and take care of them when they come to our shop. So for flipping that around and us flying to your state and your town and doing an event at your shop, it's the same thing for us. We already know what does well and what doesn't, and we pick who we're working with through a pretty selective process. We're not saying yes to every account. We want to work with the right accounts, and what those accounts look like are spots that are building community, spots that love doing events, spots that know how to hand sell a boutique cigar. If all of those things are there, then we know for a fact if we come out to your place to do an event, it's going to go well. So I honestly, in 4 years, I've never showed up for an event where I was like, man, this kind of fucking sucks. I've never had that. Not once.
Well, I think on that note, it's been God, I can't believe it's been 2 hours, 15
I know,
minutes
right?
already.
Yeah.
I mean,
Flies by.
It definitely flies by. And yesterday was actually the 2-year anniversary, Brandon, of the first time you were ever on the show.
Oh shit!
So,
yesterday, damn.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, yesterday.
Happy anniversary,
so
baby.
Yeah, happy anniversary. And it's and that's why we love, I know Tim, we all love doing these shows, building these relationships. And you know, you're more than a brand owner, you know. It's just you're just another cool cat that smokes cigars, you know, just a cigar nerd. And that's and that's definitely what we try and promote here. It's just you know, hey, this is a cool guy, you know, buy his stuff
because why it goes well for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's it, you know.
Baby.
Yeah, you know, and people that have never had Apostate was the Cigar Prop 2024 brand of the year, because like Tim had said earlier, I've never smoked a bad one. You know, I've never had a construction issue, never had anything. You know, I've never smoked a cigar and had wanted something more or something different from a cigar. Every single cigar just smokes beautifully. So
thank you.
Kudos to you guys for doing that.
And we expect the payment for saying that after the show's done.
Checks in the mail, man.
That's
the thing is like you were saying, you know, authenticity and being deliberate. It's, to your point, it's a hand-rolled product. Construction issues are going to happen. We've had maybe 1 or 2 people call it out in the last 4 years. You know what I mean? So I'm smoking almost exclusively Apostate, and I'm smoking a few a day, and I've been doing that for 3 years, and I've had a handful that had a construction issue. So that's why we like working with Hochi. All credit where it's due. Tabacalera Palma, Hochi, La Galera, that whole team. We would not be where we are without those guys, and we're so lucky they said yes to us. We're the last brand that they agreed to do business with this way, so we feel like we got
right
a
on.
huge trust. Yeah, man. So it's very cool. I'm really glad you guys like the product. But to your point, as far as doing things on purpose goes, and just doing well because it's something that you're proud of and something that you have passion about. Thank you for your content, both of you. All 3 of you. You guys rock, and I'll be on your show anytime you want.
Right on. Kerr, Tim, any final thoughts, questions, comments?
No, it's always fun being able to come on your show and, you know, hang out and talk and smoke cigars. And obviously, you know, with Brandon on, it's icing on the cake and all that. But it's always just fun coming and hanging out and getting to think out loud and debrief, you know, whatever the topic is, PCA, trade shows, all those kinds of things. So I always appreciate it. And yes, you know, we talk all the time anyways, but it's always fun to get together on screen and hang out.
100%. The only advice I give it to anybody who's watching and anybody who's going to be watching this after we end, you know, Apostate cigars, like Kevin said, never had a bad cigar. They're all great. But if you ever were afraid of a Candela, or if you ever looked at a green cigar, you didn't get it, you didn't understand it, Feathered Serpent is really where you want to start.
Yep.
That cigar will, and even if you've had a bad Candela, try the Feathered Serpent.
Especially if you've had a bad Candela.
Especially if you had a bad Candela. Because that
change
Candela,
your perception.
When I first got that cigar, I'm like, man, this looks rustic and it looks good. And then I smoked. I was like, God dang, this thing is, like Kevin and I, we're Candela guys. I was like, this is far none the best Candela that I've had. And I make Candela cigars. It was
thank you.
That damn good. So
thank you.
If you haven't tried a Candela, I'm telling you, venture off into a new area.
Tinderbox.com. They're doing killer prices on good samples right now, and I know they've got Feathered Serpent.
There you go.
Right on. And then as soon as the cigarillos come out, we'll definitely be stocking.
Oh yeah, I got to get those.
Definitely be stocking those. You know, all day long.
You mean
we'll all be sitting there just relighting every 15 minutes because that's all we're smoking.
Yeah, and then it'll be like, hey, I love this cigarillo. Can you make it bigger and longer? You know, and it's just
stay tuned.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight on your Monday, spending a couple hours with us. And remember, Apostate Cigars, divinely bold. So listen for that for that chart-topping tune on iTunes.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
So,
amazing.
All right,
Made my night.
Everybody. All right, have a good night.